And I think we're live now, Denny. So, welcome everybody. I think we all know who I am. I am Delboy, not Denny. I nearly said I'm Denny, but I'm not. I look nothing like him. And this is going to be a discussion on Logan's Run. Before, after the last one, Laurel and Hardy, that we wanted to do something TV wise. You know what I mean? So we ummed and ahed quite some time about what that one would be, didn't we, Denny? We were going, oh, should we talk about this? Should we talk about that? There was British shows mentioned. There were American shows coming out. I took a risk. I took a risk and went, what's not been discussed an awful lot? What could we talk about that where it comes in regards to future, and are we heading into that type of future? And I thought to myself, yeah, Logan's Run. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Logan's Run is, the year it came out, and then we'll go on from there. So Logan's Run, the TV series, came out a year after the film. The film came out a year before Star Wars, which was a phenomena for the world. So when Star Wars came out and Logan's Run had finished, and it by and large, the visual effects in Logan's Run at the time were pretty good. They needed to do something else, and they decided a TV series was good. So that's what they did. Logan's Run starts off with the premise that the whole world has pretty much been obliterated. We all now live in domes. Now, it's not clear whether these domes are all around the continent of everywhere. You just got to imagine the whole world's now living in these domes. They're all in one place. Because I think it talks a little bit as well about culling prosperity. In other words, you know, overpopulation. So it talks a little bit about culling, right? So the premise is that everybody now is controlled by computers, and these computers control the water, the air, everything, and pretty much you can have whatever you want. One of the key points that I saw in the film was I'm going to go with this was sex. All you had to do was dial a number. All these different women would sort of like come on, like swiping left, swiping right, and you go, yeah, she looks all right. Press a button, bang, there she is. And it was like, right, what a pill, love. Right, now let's go into the room. We're going to have sex. Then you're buggering off. Don't care. Right? Very, very sort of like stark with that. But there is in this society, which seems very idyllic. You can have whatever you want. There's a downside, and that is you can't live beyond 30. When you get to 30, you have a life crystal that's given, that's sort of like not what you're born with, but it's sort of like placed on you when you're born, and it counts down like a clock. You get to 30. And what you're supposed to do is go to a ceremony called Carousel. And in Carousel, you hope that you're going to be renewed. So you have a big festival. It's sort of like the Colosseum with lions and everything. It's everybody's around. They're all cheering. There's a big festival. Music's playing. All of these people that have reached 30 holding hands. Then they're suddenly spinning around in the air. And you hope that they're going to be renewed. You see them disappear in the film version. It's explosions. In the TV, it's like a special spectacle effect. You know, not so explosionary. And that's it. Now the problem is to keep all law and order. There are what these called sandmen, because there is a conspiracy going on that people are not believing that you're renewed, they're getting close to 30, and they decide that they're going to do something called run. They're called runners for a reason. They do not want to go into carousel. They've heard that there is a place called Sanctuary, a place that is equally idyllic. You can live beyond 30. And all you need to do is run. Get out of the dome. The dome is not what we think of it as being an idyllic place. It's a prison. That's what pretty much the runners think of the Dome City. So they go on the run. The Sandmen chase after those runners. Now, Logan, a Sandman, who's called Logan 5, and that's because everybody's pretty much cloned and just given names with numbers at the end, starts to second guess about this society. He goes, is there really an afterlife? You know, why are these people running? Why are they moving away from such an idyllic place? He meets a runner just before she's about to run. And basically, I think he falls for her, really. He doesn't seem like that at the beginning. But he's a key player in getting the runners out of the city. And after trying to go for a chase, they both leave together. Now, that's the TV version. The film version is slightly different. In the film version, Logan is actually had his life spell shortened by 4 years to give him an incentive to go looking for these runners. But they're still the same, falls for the same runner. Jessica, is it her name? And basically they leave the Dome City together, and they do find out that the air is the air. There is trees out there. It's all been a lie. They start looking for Sanctuary. So there are differences between the film version and the TV version, but pretty much it's the same sort of thing. So I think I've given enough. I think a lot of people will know the background story of that. So I'm just going to see if anybody's written anything. And then what I'm going to ask you, I think, this time in this particular stream, Denny, is what you saw first, the movie or the TV series, and what sort of like year are we talking about? Was it at the very beginning? Was it a repeat? So you have to think about that while I just bring up some of these comments. So we've got Colin Jones. He says, "You're alive." Yes, I'm not dead yet. It's all been a vicious rumor. I am definitely alive. Oh, live. Sorry, right, got you. Yeah, sorry, I misread that. I thought you said, "Am I alive?" Yeah. Colin Jones, nice carousel backdrop. Yeah, I was looking for something. Me and Denny just before going live, we're talking about what shoddy stock images there are around for Logan's Run, whether it be the TV series or the movie. It was done on a pretty low budget, I believe, the film, but was exceptional, really, for its time. I mean, that city was a model. I mean, you can see it's a model now, but my God, the complexity of that city, and you saw the tubes. I mean, Colin, I could just imagine you controlling one of those trains. You know, if they weren't just singular, I could just imagine you actually being the pilot of them and taking people everywhere through these glass tubes. Oh God, yeah. So we move on, and Ian Hill's here. Ian Hill, the Ramblers. You're gonna have a great grand time. I can't say it, York. I still can't do that. Delboy Denny. I never watched the TV series. It passed me by. So this will be an education. Oh, well, I hope it will be a little bit of an education. We hope, I think, sometimes that when we're doing a live stream on something like Logan's Run, although it was short-lived, I think it's well known enough that we just want to prod a few memories. You know, we might bring something up and go, "Oh, I remember that episode," or "I remember that visual," or "Oh, yeah, I didn't see the correlation," or something. That's what we're hoping, I think, Denny. Wouldn't you agree on something like these live streams? Because we want people to probably be encouraged as well to go away and watch it, maybe. we know it's expensive, and that the world doesn't allow us to go out and spend 40 quid on box sets and all of that sort of stuff. But there are other ways. I do believe this is actually being streamed on, I think it's Hulu, Roku. I think those have got them. So you might be able to see it. So I hope we do educate you a little bit here, Ian. Then we've got Sandy Ollier. I love the film to bits, mainly because I wanted to bang Jenny Agutter. Yeah, well, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Yeah, I mean, I must admit, just jogging forward a little bit, there is a section where she does have to change her clothes. And I've got a funny feeling that when people were renting that on VHS in the 80s, that might have been a bit grainy, that section, when most people were watching it. Probably because of freeze framing. Yeah. What do you think, Denny? Do you remember that scene? It's a little bit further on.
I don't remember that scene, but I agree with Sandy. Yeah, it's...
Jenny Agutter got very, very wet because they had to go through the water system to get out, and they reached an area that was full of ice, and there was a robot there that basically was...
Yeah, the robot, as I was getting... I remember that part.
It actually captured runners, and they actually walked past an ice museum type thing where they were all stark naked, just ice, and he was... and all he kept talking about was fish, plankton. That's all I remember about it. It was like Robbie the robot. But I remember that because they had to go through the water system, and they turned up at night like an igloo. She had to change clothes, otherwise they would, they'd get hypothermia. So basically, there's a scene where they're all getting out of their clothes and then putting some furs or something over them. And I'm pretty sure everybody freeze framed to see if they can see Jenny Agutter's knockers. Excuse my frankness here, but that's pretty much.
Just on that point, it's about time the 4K was to come out just for that very thing.
Well, yeah. Be a bit more robust with the old freeze frame there. So yes, Andy, I concur. Jenny Agutter at that particular time, and then all the way up to American Werewolf in London, and the shower scene in American Werewolf in London. Everybody, I think, has had a bit of a crush on Jenny Agutter through the years.
Not so much that Finger does now, though.
Colin Jones goes, he. I hope that's in basis of the trains and the tubes that I was talking about there. Jensen Bros is in. Sorry I'm late, but I'm still at work. Oh, that's all right. Honestly, we're all just glad that you've turned up. We've literally only just gone over what the TV premise was. That's pretty much all we've done. And we've got a little bit of banter going on. Cy Robinson's in the building. Thank you so much, Cy. Absolutely brilliant. He's a guy that I chat to quite a bit, Denny, when I go on my sort of like film bits.
Oh, right.
When I go around, doing the chat rooms when we're asking questions to these people. It's the other way around now. We're listening to what they want to tell us now. Colin Jones says you have to wait for an American Werewolf in London for that. And then he's got, I think, a funny sort of like face because I've been talking about it. Now, we've got to the point where I've read out all the comments. So I said to you, Denny, memories from you. Did you see the film first? Did you see the TV series first?
Yeah,
that's a little bit of the history for us,
Just a bit of a light relief. Just that one point, the sex scenes and all that. Where
yes.
It's actually called Fab Swingers now on the internet, mate. So
right. Has everybody got to Google that then when we're finished?
Well, you'll find for yourself. That's from a person at work, by the way. Yeah.
Right.
Just another point you brought up about the runners disbelieved. Just how I remember this. Just the runners disbelieved what was going on. Funny enough, the conversation that we was just having, about COVID and all that. Same sort of premise, really. There's always disbelief in any society, really. So it will always be there. Which, But yeah, more memories. Oh my goodness. The film, yes, I saw the film before the television, and that was when it come out at the pictures. My dad took me to.
So you were there in 1976, right? Okay.
My dad used to take me to all the science fiction, films, dinosaurs, anything. Oh, Land of Time for anything like that. My dad used to take me. The TV series, I seem to have a few more memories of that. I did have to look up when it come out, 1978. It aired on ITV.
Yeah,
Now,
in this country, it's
yeah,
early 1978. Yeah.
1978. That's my earliest memory. I don't think it was ever repeated again.
Right.
And it was years and years before the TV series come out. Now, I don't know about you. I was 11 years of age at that point. There was no internet. There was no games. We had to make our own imagination. And you can imagine seeing something like that. You only saw it once, like Space 1999. I used to have all these adventures in my head. I always remember doing different adventures, in the like the particular scene from
Yeah.
Logan. I always remember the cars as well. I always
Right.
wanted to have one of their cars, Yeah, but basically that's about it. That's the only thing I can remember back then. It wasn't until I bought the box set that I actually got back into it again, and I'm
Right.
glad I did. So yeah, as I say, £37 was a lot of money to pay, but anybody out there, it's well worth every single penny. Brilliant
Right.
series.
Yeah.
But that's the only memories I really are. Dad taking me to the pictures, in 1978, little flashbacks to what it was, and my imagination running wild, and doing my own stories until he'd actually come back out on box set.
Ah, right. I mean, I must admit, it's a bit difficult for me when I think about this, because when the film came out in 1976, I was younger than you, from what you're telling me.
Yeah, I was 11.
So from that point of view, I'm trying to think as well what the actual certification was for that film when it was at the cinema, because the Blu-ray's got a 12 certificate, and there was no such thing as a 15.
I was
So
nine. I was 9 for the film and
right.
11 for. That's right, 9 for the film, and
Yeah. So your dad went to see it,
yeah.
but I've got a funny feeling it was an R-rated or an 18 certificate film, because it's a 12. I'm not sure, but you have to remember, I'm not sure what the certification. What I'm asking here is, at the pictures, what was the film rating in 1976?
I don't know, mate. I was a kid of 9 years of age.
You wouldn't know. I can't remember. And everything I'm looking at the moment points to the fact that it's a 12 certificate now.
Let's have a look.
So which indicates that it's above PG.
What certificate was it? PG back then, though.
That's what I mean. If it has, it's been recertified above, because 12 is above PG.
Well, I definitely remember seeing it.
I've got a funny feeling it was a PG, and it was probably a risque PG that they allowed through, because even with that naked scene.
I mean, don't forget, sometimes they had certain cuts around different regions as well. The British Board of Film Classification was very strict, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think we in the British public have allowed nudity and haven't liked horror. And in America, they don't mind horror but hate nudity, and which is why nudity is such a big thing in the States, because they've grown up knowing that you could chop somebody's fingers off and nobody would bat an eyelid, but you show a breast. Oh my God, what's going on? Yeah, we've been showing breasts on page 3 and everything. It's almost like the reverse. So I've got a funny feeling it was a PG. The British certification of it would have been PG, and it's only because it's mild titillation. And I don't think the subject matter would have leveled it above a PG either, because it wasn't drugs. The violence was more to killing people with a shotgun. But I do remember there was a documentary on Logan's Run saying it was the first time that you saw somebody die or disposed of with acid. Because at the very beginning of the film, you see a runner. He's shot out off of a balcony. He lands on the floor, and an automatic robot comes along, and it's a special effect in the film, and it puts a mist over him, and he dissolves. That's him. That's the runner gone. That's how they disposed of bodies.
There's a longer sequence in the car where Box asked Logan and Jessica to pose for his ice sculpture. This was cut due to excessive nudity, so the film could receive a PG rating.
Yeah, so it was a PG.
I remember seeing it, but just vague memories from when I was a kid, really.
but I thought you'd know, and that's why I thought I'll bring it up because I know you bloody note heaven, right? You know, you've got to pay chapter and verse like you do with my blog. So thank you very much, sir, by the way, for all of the blogs. So I'm just going to read out some more here because we've got a couple more questions and not comments and that coming up. So we've got I don't know what they are. That's the sanctuary, the Ankh, isn't it? That's around Jessica's thing. The film was an A. There was letter A's, there was actually lettering certification like XXX, XA. Yeah, there was. But if you're saying it's a PG, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I'm just saying that, it was a bit. I just thought that, wow, it is a little bit risque.
But isn't it possible, though? There could be different showings at different times of the day.
Well, there could have been. I mean, I haven't heard of Logan's Run being shown at Kids Club. This, right? And when you're talking about that era in 1976, for me, I was going to Kids Club. It was Saturday, 50 pence, watch Flash Gordon and a film. But even during that, they showed Meteor, Orpheus, and all of that. So you know what I mean. So it's not something that I would have said would have looked out of place in Saturday Morning Club. But,
I do know the British Board of Film Classification was very strict. I mean, very strict, wasn't they, at one time? There was some banned films that you can get now, but I'll probably go with that. They had different times for different showings, different cuts. I mean, you're not talking massive cuts, are you, really? I mean, there's two scenes, wasn't there?
It's like I said, the subject matter alone you'd have thought possibly have risen it because we're talking about corruption, society, guns, killing people, acid to dispose of people's bodies. So, you know what I mean? You could turn around and there's a famous scene with Farrah Fawcett in the film with a plastic surgeon lasers and it's cutting into skin and all sorts of stuff. So I'm just one of those people that think I should think they let it go an awful lot with this. It wasn't exactly like Last Tango in Paris. You know what I mean? It's where it's a specific sex film. That's it. You know what I mean?
Saying that the costumes was quite revealing as well.
Yeah. But then again, we've been used to films by then of Alfie, and it was the 60s in the miniskirt. So, I mean, if you watch an old show like On the Buses, the film versions, you see women going up the stairs on a double-decker bus, and all you see is their knickers. You know, I mean, we're going up, and there's the conductor looking up, going.
Well, that's a subject for another time.
That's for another time. So all I'm saying is they were racy, but as far as I'm concerned, we'll talk about the costumes because they weren't bloody functional. I will say that. Anyway, Ian says, I saw the film at the cinema in 1976, then saw it again on the big screen in 1978 at the University Film Club. Wow. So you managed to get hold of a projector or your university had a projector for you to show films that had been shown at the cinema and now were sort of like redundant, because we have to remember during this period there's no VHS, no video recorders really in this country. Higher ups in America would have video recorders, but we were pretty much terrestrial free TV channels and going to the cinema and the theater. That was pretty much it. So,
out of interest, Del, the film came out in 76. The series come out in 77. Yes. Did the UK have the series then before the films? Because normally the films used to come out about 5 years after back then, hadn't they?
No, I think it actually did show in the same year, 76, in this particular instance. It might have... No. At the cinema, the film, 1976, it was shown around the world. By the end of 1976, the world would have seen Logan's Run. I think it started off quite early. It's like a May, June thing in America. By the time we got it, it would have been in the autumn or fall.
Now, what I was trying to get at,
76.
The series, was the series shown on British television before the actual film because of the waiting time for the film? Because there was normally remember Star Wars took quite a few years to come to the television.
Well, like I said, Logan's Run was early 78.
78 we got it, but was there a wait? What I'm saying is, was the waiting time on the film, because there was a waiting time before it could go on to terrestrial television. So
it wouldn't have been on telly.
Yeah.
The movie would not be on telly.
So we'd have got the series first then, before the movie. Which
if you're talking about yes, when a film is transferred to terrestrial TV, if I remember rightly, there was an agreement across the whole, not just the BBC but the Broadcasting Corporation, that you could not see a film for 5 years. And I think we were still in that place in 1976. So yeah, you would have seen this on the TV. Kiddies might have watched it, but unless they went to the cinema, they wouldn't know anything about it.
Yeah,
well, that's a lie as well, because what I do know is at the time there was a publication for kids called Lookin'.
Oh yeah, used to.
And Lookin' was like the TV Times for kids, and they had Logan's Run. I remember that. So they would have probably got a hint of it because it was being shown on telly, and then Lookin' would have shown every week Logan's Run, because it was shown at different times around the ITV network. It would have been on a Sunday for one, on a Friday for another. It'd have been in the evening for one. It would have been in the afternoon on another. It would have never have been in the same place for all the different regions, because it wasn't a BBC thing. It was an ITV. Put it in your schedule somewhere, because only at the weekend does Thames take over, and that's where you can all bugger off, because London's taking over and showing you what you've got to watch. You know what I mean? It was pretty much like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, the regional differences. Yeah, oh, I've got to remember them. The regional differences. Yeah.
So let's see. We move on. Colin turns around and says, "Logan's Run is one of my favorite films and a great soundtrack." Now I have to talk about the soundtrack here. It is a phenomenal soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith. If ever there was a difference in tone when it comes to the music of the TV series and the film wins out every time for me. But we'll talk about the music a little bit later on. But Jerry Goldsmith did a fantastic score, and it's been expanded now. But back then, you didn't get much of a suite. It was all score. There wasn't any songs because there was no songs in the film. But it was at that time where you got 20 minutes per side on a vinyl, so you were lucky to get about 40 minutes of music out of it. And yet it's nearly 2-hour film. It's about an hour and 40, an hour and 45. So where's the rest of it? Because it's not exactly like silent for a lot of it. There is actual cues of music, but they're probably not what we would consider now suitable for CD and passages on a vinyl. You know what I mean? There'd be cues of about a minute long where you just hear one instrument doing a little fluttering of something, or whatever. Now we put everything. If it's in the film, it's on the disc. There it is. I have to agree with you, Colin, that it is one of my favorites of Jerry Goldsmith's. Not my favorite. I mean, I've got my own opinion about what Jerry Goldsmith's quintessential work is. But it's up there. It's damn good. We'll say that. Now, Si's got, I think, some more additional answers for us. Si, remember it was U, A, AA, and X for U, PG, 12A, 12, 15, and 18. Yeah, I remember A and AA. There you go. So PG would have been A. 12A, 12 would have been AA. Up to 15. Then 18 it would have been X. Yeah, that rings a bell. That's just about right. Because I always said when PG came out, I said, "What's that mean then? Pornographic?" And then I found out it's parental guidance. So I was a bit disappointed then, because I thought PG, pornographic, yeah. So that didn't work out. Colin Jones says, "I saw the film years after I saw the TV series." Yeah, now I've got a funny feeling that's more commonplace. I've got a funny feeling. Most people saw the TV series, and then they saw the film, because I do know the film is a favorite on BBC channel in like Movie Drome and all that sort of stuff. And they put it in certain segments, like late at night. You know, you'll see a odd showing of Logan's Run. You know what I mean? You know, now the news is finished and all of that sort of stuff. They'll stick it in 11 o'clock slot somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Because it's gone past the point of discussion. It's now just shown for entertainment. Where a show like Movie Drone or whatever it would have had Alex Cox talking about how quintessentially futurist it was, you know, and everything about it, like we're doing now, sort of, Denny. I think we'll bring this one up next, and then we'll start talking discussion a bit more, because although there's some more to go. Ian Hill, The Ramblings. The university showed a variety of films on the big screen 3 times a week. They were the classics, shown too from the 30s through to the 70s. So they probably showed like Orson Welles' stuff, you know, like, you know, I don't know, Citizen Kane and all of that sort of stuff, all the way through to early 70s stuff. So they might have shown Jaws, I suppose. That would have been a fun. That would have been a favourite to show at a university, I would have thought. That would have pleased our mutual friend Nigel, Rock God, because he loves Jaws. Jesus Christ, mention Jaws, and he's away for it with the fairies for about an hour and a half, talking nothing but Jaws. Lovely guy, definitely. Some of these people that I'm mentioning, like right now, like Colin, Denny, you know, have got channels. Ian Hill, The Ramblings. If you hear these names coming out, we know them, we love them, and they've got channels. Please subscribe to any of their stuff. They do such great work. So I suppose we go to my memories of it, and to be quite honest, it's as I said, I think I saw the TV series before the film.
I would have.
And I do know as well that it wasn't well repeated. I think after the showing finished in 1978, there probably wasn't a repeat on TV until mid-80s or beyond. I don't think there was anything in 1979, 80, 81, 82, or anything. I think it became like a distant, forgotten thing. You know, we've shown that once. It didn't get great. We've had then since then, because when you get to the early 80s, you've got Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers. You're for them really fighting to exist, you know, to get a place to show something that's so old.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably similar to Planet of the Apes as well, the TV series. As much as it's a quintessential, iconic science fiction line, I don't think the TV series of that was shown as a repeat too many times. You proved me wrong on that one, Denny. Am I wrong?
No, I'll be honest with you. I only remember it on once, and that was, as I said, I was 11 years of age, and that was because my memories are so short, and because there was just like little flash, you know, when you just had them, like when you've been a dream, them little flashbacks that you had to it. I remember the car, and I remember obviously Carousel. Them were the ones, but I don't remember any repeat. I would have known, because I absolutely adored, you know, series like that.
Yeah.
Another thing that surprised you, do you know when the Sci-Fi Channel actually come out in America?
In America? Oh, whoa, yeah. No.
Because it was never shown. Now, correct me if anybody's out there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was even on the UK's Sci-Fi Channel. Whether it was due to, you know, I don't even remember it on there. I think it was shown once in 1978. I don't think it was shown again.
No, you're probably right. I do know that they used to have the Sci-Fi Channel in the top corner, and everything was still CRT then, so it would have been early satellite stuff. And I do remember they did do Planet of the Apes, because I've seen the Sci-Fi symbol shown in the corner when they've done certain repeats. When I had a Squarial, a BSB, British satellite broadcaster.
I did too.
I had a Squarial. My mum didn't want a big dish. She said, "Oh, I don't mind that smaller square thing, but we ain't having that big flipping dusty bin lid on the side of my house." That was my mum.
Yeah.
Putting her foot down, and my dad was going, "Shit, I want the football." And yet your mum said no, so we can't. Anyway, and I do remember they did the Incredible Hulk, $6 Million Man, the Barnet Woman. They showed all of those sort of things on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I think you're right. I think Logan's Run's had a bad experience when it comes to being talked about, watched, seen, bought.
I can't remember like the Fantastic Journey, Otherworld. That was another one set, in the pyramid. There's quite a few, and yet our UK one showed Beyond Westworld, which was awful. This is surprising how Logan's Run is a big name. So but I don't ever remember, unless somebody can correct me out there. I don't remember it at all. Not on the UK.
Yeah. So I think you're right. So my memory of it will be the TV series, Looking magazine, and then I think I watched the film the first time on terrestrial TV after the 5 years hiatus. So that would make it 1981. And in 1981, we were getting our video recorder. Now, we did have a Betamax first and then went to VHS. And I've got a funny feeling it would have been shown probably on BBC One or BBC Two, Logan's Run, when it eventually did it to terrestrial. Because the BBC and the ITV fought that back then about who was going to show what. You had to pay for it, so they'd want Jaws. The big blockbuster. BBC would want Jaws. And if there's a big fight, they'd have probably have relinquished and said, we'll have The Sound of Music and destroy them at Christmas, and they can have Jaws. There'll be another time that we'll show Jaws. We've won The Sound of Music. That's us at Christmas one. You know what I mean? They'd be like that. Because when Satellite and Sky did eventually happen, that was it. Nobody cared. Sky bought everything. Yeah. That was it. Boom. Sky got it. And then you had to wait until the sell-through came through, or the rental version, and finished doing its rental period. But that's all another thing. That's not about Logan's Run. My remembrance of it, for definite, comes away from the fact that I remember the music and I remember the look. They had a very distinctive look. It's like the girls were wearing fluorescent or very shiny type things, and the blokes were wearing dull type things, right? That's my memory of it. But then when I've watched it back, and I've watched it again this week, that's not quite true, because the blokes were going around in red and high coloured stuff, but the girls were very distinctive. I mean, really, I think it's because, is that a dress or is it a shirt with a belt around the bottom of it? I mean, that's pretty much, I mean, you're being a bit daring here. Which always made it weird for me, because if you're going to run and you think you're going to leave the dome and it's been a nuclear environment out there, surely you'd take a change of clothes with you. Right, or you'd have a backpack in a place where just on the outskirts of the dome that you can pick up and go, because you ain't going to last very long with that stuff out there with a nuclear sort of like environment that you're going to be heading into. The Sandman, our friend Logan, fair enough, he's got a sort of like polo neck or sweatshirt type thing, trousers and all that sorts of pair of shoes. What shit he got? Long shirt with a belt. Yeah. Now, we do know that the reason for this really is titillation. The look of the show. Girls need to be showing off a little bit of, leg or something for the dad while the kids are watching it or whatever. Do you know what I mean? We've had this with Doctor Who and Leela, haven't we? Where she was around in a leopard skin, a leather sort of like outfit for a couple of episodes, and all the dads were going, "Oh yeah, I want to watch Doctor Who." Yeah, and all of a sudden,
don't forget Perry.
Perry, Well, yeah, a little bit later on. I mean, yeah, we I mean, Peter Davison's famous, isn't he? Saying that when he when he was regenerated, he said all I could see was her chest. The cleavage. That's all I saw. It was the best day ever filming, I should think he was probably thinking. But no, I mean, the look of the show definitely had a bit of future about it. I thought everything looked clean. There was lots of crystally type things, lots of sharp edges. My memory of it is lots of sharp edges, like like you'd cut a diamond and you were looking at it through a magnifying glass. It's shards of like crystal glass. Do you know what I mean? As a statue, it would be crystalline. You know what I mean? And then I thought to myself, you didn't see too much about the home living. Because the only time we really saw the home living was when they were going to have sex. There was the dial a woman up type thing. And you could tell it was definitely of a time because you never saw. We haven't seen a Logan's Run reversal yet where it's the woman dialing up the bloke. But I'm pretty sure it's probably going to happen. Right? I wouldn't put it past it.
Can you imagine what that's going to be like? I ain't going to say no more. We know what that's going to be.
Logan's 5 suddenly got a mini skirt on. Yeah. Anyway, oh God, I'm giving everybody. I'm either making people sick or somebody's taking notes and actually making that show next year. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure at the moment, Denny. So all I'm getting at is the visual element of it was stark. I remember that. And then I saw its big brother. So it was the film, which is obviously the thing that's first. And I remember that Marvel came out with a movie adaptation of it. I think it came out as a comic, Marvel. I think it was one of their magazine format comics because it's a bit more adult orientated. They did these. They made a Planet of the Apes. They did a Jaws 2. They did a Indiana Jones. They did through the years. Marvel have done what they call treasury editions, and they've been film adaptations. And at that point, then I'm looking at its little brother, and then seeing its big brother. And if I haven't been properly educated, I would have probably have thought that the TV series sparked somebody to make a film rather than the film made the TV series. Because when I did see the film, I went, wow, you can see they put some money into this now. Because the thing that came out of the TV series, because I'd watched so much American TV series back then, everything was a dusty road, hardly any grass around, trees. It was the back lot of somewhere, right? A couple of mountains in the distance. Somebody had put a door in on the side of a mountain to make it look like you could actually go through it, and covered it with branches around the edge to make it so you know what I mean? We're talking cheap, right? So I thought, yeah, they've certainly put some money here. And isn't Jenny Agutter lovely? Yeah. Anyway, and I think it's weird because I do remember I got the soundtrack off my dad, and it was before the film came out. So I would have known there was a film. That's the thing. It's really weird, this, because it's a time where I saw the film after the TV series, but would have got the soundtrack before I got the film. So it's one of those disjointed ones, Logan's Run, for me. Very much. And I'm going to stop there with my memories. Logan's Run. We'll probably do a few comments now. And then I think we'll then move on to whatever you want to discuss about Logan's Run, whether you want to talk about whether it was a good future vision of what we're in now, as a society, what it was trying to dispel, what it was trying to get across, because it is a book. We have to understand it was a book adapted. So let's see. We've got Colin Thompson. He's got LOL. We're making some people laugh. Mardroid, brilliant. He's always there with my blogs. Hey guys, at work, so I can't stay. But we'll watch this tonight. Rock on, my brothers. That's all right. Absolutely wonderful. So glad that you're going to be watching this afterwards. We hope we'll entertain through the night. Colin Thompson, going to have to watch Logan's Run later now. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because we talked about it, and then we went, you know what? I will watch it. I've got it. I'll watch a few episodes before I'm going to talk about it because I want to refresh myself. You know what I mean? Instantly, you're just going, I enjoyed that this week. I watched a few Logan's runs. Quite good. Then we've got Ian Hill, the Rams. I can't remember any retrospective TV Zone or Starburst. No. Then I'm sure there would have been an article on it because it is quintessentially an iconic film. Because it is that one film before Star Wars. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking literally a science fiction film, and the next science fiction film that you'd have seen at the cinema after Logan's Run would be Star Wars. So, you know, I mean, it is from that point of view, people would look at it and go, oh, yeah, the effects were pretty shit, weren't they, really? Because this Star Wars is epic. Look at this. You know what I mean? Because it would have been fresh still in the memories, I think, of people. Got Cy Robson says, if there is a remake, would you prefer a movie limited 8-episode show or an 8 seasons American style show? That's an interesting question. Because I must admit, back in the day when we were watching stuff, everything was like 22 episodes a season. Now they've reduced it to 10 or 13, and we followed suit with, even when you look at Doctor Who, when it was revised back in 2005, it was 13 episodes, one season. And the Americans have obviously been doing this sort of like since Netflix, I think it is really this 8 and 10 episode thing. To me, a season was always 20 some odd episodes. Knight Rider was 20 some episodes. 18 was 20 some odd episodes, etc., etc., etc. It was a stark thing to know. That's the end of season 1. It was only 10. What the hell's going on? So,
for me, I think either a movie or a limited 8-episode run. I like it when they limit the episodes because they're more compact. There's no fluff or anything around it. The only one thing that I worry about, and you know exactly what I'm going to worry about, is when you bring politics into it, which they would, and everything would completely change about. And it wouldn't be the Logan's Run that we know. I would rather that if they're going to do one, wait until we get past this nonsense stage we're in, and then do it then. But I think it would work better as a limited 8-episode production, especially on one of the streaming networks.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go against the grain here, Denny, and I'm going to, because he's given us 3 options. He says a movie, limited 8-episode show, or 8 seasons of an American style show. And I'm going to go with the fact that I think it started to run out of steam anyway, even though it was cancelled. It was like, where are we going to go? They haven't found Sanctuary. They just keep going on and on and on till they find Sanctuary. And then where do you go? Right. And that was the problem with Westworld and why it ran out of steam. You know, I loved Westworld, but it was brought back. You know, Anthony Hopkins at the end. I was gripped in that first season. Then it turned into a formulatic piece of shit. And by the time we got to the 4th season, who gave a crap?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So I think that really there isn't much place for you to go with Logan's Run. It is a bit limiting. I think it is a self-contained thing. I think it might make a good movie split into 2. You know, like they did Back to the Future, and then they decided, oh, we're going to bring Back to the Future back, and we'll film 2 back to back, and you had a trilogy. I think Logan's Run and Logan's Run, the sequel, where they split it up to make a 3-hour piece would be good. But I'm going to add something else to you. A movie probably wouldn't work because I think it's too simplistic. But a mini series that they used to do, like Salem's Lot, was a mini series, right? TV movie split into 2 would be idealistic, I think, for Logan's Run. You get then beyond the film and you go shorter than the series, and that would be the perfect hotspot for it. You see what I mean? So I think a mini series, what we used to call a mini series, would be brilliant for Logan's Run. Is that a good enough answer for your side? Because that's the best one that I've got. But I totally agree with Denny, it would be interesting to see where you'd go with the series, because this one, I think a lot of people were disappointed that it got cancelled. Not at the time, but as a historic thing, because
Yeah.
the other thing we haven't talked about is that they broadcast 14, and there are 3 episodes, if I remember rightly, that have never been broadcast, and those episodes are also not on the DVD box set. Now, I tried to work out, was it 11 episodes, and there were 3 episodes making it 14, and those 3 are now out? Or was it actually, no, they broadcast 14 and there was an extra 3, because they keep going on and saying there was 3 episodes never broadcast.
They got up to 11, and then they'll never show them on network TV, but all 14 are on the discs.
Yeah. Now, see, that goes against the grain, because when I look at the websites and I put the TV episodes up, those last 3 were shown and broadcast in 1978, 77. 78, yeah. So what I'm saying to you there is, why is it then that they're showing those as broadcasted when they keep saying it wasn't broadcasted? So that's where I get a confusion on that.
But there's another thing to go with this. You say about the 8 seasons. I mean, I would love an 8-season Logan's run, but the thing is, I don't know that you noticed, and especially I'm using Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Look how many episodes in that. They're absolutely appalling. They run out of ideas. You can tell they run out of fairy tale one. Then they went into a comic, like an animated thing, which was ridiculous. And then that one where there was like it's singing in an opera. I mean, you're thinking, Christ Almighty, you're only doing how many episodes, and you can't even, deal with that, let alone,
But have you heard the buzz though around Strange New World season 3?
No, I haven't at the moment. No.
You see, what I heard is that they were shot into stardom very, very quickly with the first season, because there were more good episodes than there were bad. And they saw the figures coming in, and they went in a slightly different direction with season 2. They got cocky, basically, how I look at it. And they started bringing in all sorts of stuff. Apparently, it's had such mixed reviews, the second one, and they know that this one really is the only thing going for Star Trek at the moment, because Picard's finished. And they've got to hope that the same production team can go forward with 7 of 9 as a captain after Picard. That they know that Strange New Worlds is their only glimmer of hope, and I think they're going back to the drawing boards as a season 1 type thing. So it's not going to be any of this musical shit, and Spock suddenly is a human and his ears need to grow back and all sorts of shit like that was going on in the second season. So yeah, that is, I think, a show that got cocky.
But I think you're right. I think it would work better. It would work better as a miniseries, like the Martian Chronicles, something.
That sort of thing,
or a limited 8 episode run, or something like that. I'll definitely say to suit that.
Martian Chronicles. It's like, in fact, actually, that would be a really good one to discuss. Is 3 1.5-hour slotted things that, when you put together, is really quite long. It certainly hurt your ass if you're in the cinema watching that all the way through. But it worked so well. I remember that being on a bank holiday, like at Easter, where you had Friday off and Monday off, and Saturday and Sunday was in between. They'd show that on the Saturday night, and it'd go all the way to Monday, and you'd be back at work on Tuesday or back at school. And you watched all 3, and it was over those 3 days. And I was going, oh yeah, Martian Chronicles 2nd episode's tomorrow. Oh, 3rd one's on Monday. Oh, now I'm back at school. Shit. I wish I hadn't wished all my time away.
Yeah.
But I was like that when that came out. So yeah. Let's see what else we got. Because that was a really good question, Si. Thank you. Keep coming like that, mate. Bloody hell, we love all that. That's made us think. Colin, they might be able to make a closer adaptation to the book in a 5-part miniseries, an hour an episode. Yeah, that's interesting, because we haven't talked about the book, but I did say, it is an adaptation. But I do believe this screenplay was, I think it had 3 people turn it into a screenplay, and I don't remember hearing too much about whether the original author had much of a say in it.
No.
I didn't read anywhere before this discussion about what the original author thought or anything.
Yeah, co-written by William F. Nolan of the
Yeah.
original book, and Saul David, who was the producer of the film and TV. Yeah.
So they must have. He couldn't have really. I mean, I don't even know if he died before the film came out. I didn't look that much in depth into it. But he couldn't have shouted out too much because they made a TV series, didn't they? And it looks identical, a little bit, really. Because I think that's a good point to talk about that now, Denny.
Yeah, I'm in.
No, it's all right. I know I know you were doing something to your heating. Is that this is where the Americans have the edge over us, and I don't know whether you agree with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this came out on the CBS channel, right, in the States. I remember reading that. It was a CBS production. And most of the TV that was being shown in America was twinned with its movie studio. So CBS might have been Sony, or Columbia, or whatever it was. So whenever they wanted to bring out a TV series, you had all of the resources of the film that you were doing an adaptation of. So the cost of making this film drastically reduced. So in other words, we've still got all these costumes lying about. Yeah, help yourself. We've got all the guns still around. Oh, you want to use an optical shot from the film? Did we make it? Yeah, we did. Yeah, there you go. Here's all the stuff that you need for the Dome City. Boom. So all they had to do, really, right?
But didn't they used to call that sort of thing the Irwin Allen adaptation?
Well,
because he was always known for stock footage, wasn't it? They used to call it.
And the carry-ons were films were well known for that as well. They did Carry On Cleo, based on the fact that they'd all buggered off. God's sake, Richard Burton. They'd all buggered off to film it abroad, leaving all the sets behind. So, of course, Peter Rogers came along and said, yeah, well, you use all their sets then to a carry-on film. Thanks very much. Brilliant. They wouldn't probably even know that we've been here. And they saved a fortune and made probably one of the most lavish-looking carry-on films ever, and it made the most money. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, there you go. Yeah. So I'm just saying that in America, I think the BBC never had that. If they were making Blake 7 between, 1977 and 81, it would have had a similar writing partnership. There would have been a joining of, this is similar to this, it's got a writer from Doctor Who in it. The look would have been totally different. The sets would have been totally different. And that therefore the BBC couldn't really borrow from a Doctor Who episode. Do you know what I mean? Other than, we went to this quarry last year, so I think we ought to go to that quarry this year for a Blake 7 episode. Would have been about as close as it came, other than a few props here and there. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't see K9 showing up, you know what I mean, in a Blake 7 episode. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, all those shows that the BBC did, Tripods, Day of the Triffids, all of that sort of stuff, were all new set dressed stuff. You couldn't go to Hammer and say, can I use your stock footage? Because money. Every time you do a shot from our film, you give us some money, we'll do it. In America, that would have been, out yourself. It's CBS, we own it, you have it. You know what I mean? So, of course, when he turned around and say a series was cancelled because it was costing too much, then it must have been something that wasn't based on a film, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I would say that.
Because they got an inexhaustible supply. You know what I mean?
Well, Logan's Run didn't it? It used the City of Downs carousel. It used quite a lot of stuff, all the costumes, because all the original writers and producers come back as well, didn't they? Costume designers. So,
Yeah.
as you say, but the irony of it is, I always found American production, especially like this Planet of the Apes, Logan's Run, they used to be cancelled quicker than what probably a BBC production would, even though they had to build it up from the ground up. Did you used to find that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
No, that's something that's quintessential. Yeah, I would say a yes to.
but was it because they had to spend so much money that go with it a bit to see if it'd gain any traction? Because
Yeah,
normally,
I mean, we
British
all
audience,
we all know that Planet of the Apes failed because of its slot and the fact it was costing too much, right? But I don't think you could ignore the fact that as much as you could borrow as much as you want from 20th Century Fox that was bringing that production out, and it was a 20th Century Fox backlot production as well, the makeup would have cost a fortune. You could have as much latex lying around. You still needed the makeup to blend it all in. The costumes, yeah, help yourself, but the sets would have been torn down, so you'd have still have needed to do. So you could have had a stock shot, but it would have looked starkly different when you went into the studio to do the inside of it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I recognise that from Planet of the Apes. I remember they walked into the front of a hut, and then when you got inside, it was like, wow! So all of a sudden, the colours are really vivid. Everything's also like.
What was the logic though behind these American companies that produced something which was really expensive, like per episode? I mean, 250,000 back then was how much like now?
Yeah,
And then
yeah, yeah,
they put it in the death slot of a Friday night from 8 o'clock, where all Americans go out because it,
yeah,
it never made any sense to me. Why on earth did they used to produce these massive productions and put it on in the
yeah.
death? Because it is the death slot, they call it, of a Friday. It's
They
eight
call it the
o'clock.
death slot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we, on the other hand, in the same period of what we're talking about here, Channel 4 thrived on a Friday night because they would be showing Frasier and Cheers and Friends and all of this in that sort of like 8 till 10, 11 o'clock slot. There would be the half-hour Frasier and Cheers, all that sort of stuff. A couple of British comedies like Father Ted would be thrown in with there and the In-Betweeners or whatever. So Friday thrived, yet most people go out on a Friday night and a Saturday night, to get pissed. You know what I mean, of a certain age group.
But I mean,
So
you're saying Channel 4, there was another thing though with Channel 4, wasn't there? Sunday afternoons, Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Time Tunnel, Land of the Giant. That used to be a very popular slot as well. That was
yeah,
making the biggest
but
ever.
I was just doing the difference between Britain on a Friday at 9, 10 o'clock, the death slot, and the thriving slot for Channel 4, the saving grace, the time that they were hoping would come round really quickly because we get our viewing figures up, is when Father Ted, Frasier, Cheers, and everything else was coming on in that slot.
But don't forget, Logan's Run was, again, it affected a lot of other productions, was preempting it constantly. And it could be weeks before they put another new episode on. It used to kill it. This is why I never understood. They used to spend thousands, millions sometimes on productions, and then stick it in the death slot.
Yeah, I don't know. Did it start off on a Friday though, or did it move there after a couple of episodes though?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know when it started.
Because I've got a funny feeling that that's what happened to Star Trek. It was actually in a good slot at the beginning, but then as figures dwindled, they moved it around. Then after writing petitions, the third season it ended up being in the graveyard slot, and then it had nowhere to go. It doesn't matter what writing production, what writing petitions were going on, it was gone, and you knew that it was gone.
Once it was back then, once it went, didn't it?
Yeah.
16th of September 77. I don't know whether.
No. So anyway, let's have a look and see what other people have put. Look, because we haven't read those out for a while. We've got Gaming Since the 70s. My mate Steve. Now, I haven't heard from Steve in a long time. I hope you're well, Steve. He's got, hi, guys. Love Logan's Run. I saw the film and then read the book. I always read the books of the films I liked, as they were usually better. Yeah, no, I have to actually agree a little bit with that. I don't remember reading Logan's Run, the film adaptation. I do know that Logan's Run, the book, was out there, but I don't think it was the film adaptation version. I think it was the original, and I remember seeing it in the library. It would have had the film picture on the front because it'd have been a later edition of it. You know what I mean? But I don't remember it saying film adaptation. Then saw the TV series. So he saw the TV series after he saw the film. So that was the order that he did it, which is that's similar to you. You saw the film first, then the TV. I saw TV, then the film. Really loved it all. And Jenny Agutter, whoa! I had to do my little fist there to go in. Whoa! Yeah. Thanks very much for that, making me look stupid, Steve, with at the end. And for that insight, yeah, I think you mirror. Well, I'll tell you what, we ought to have a poll, really, because who in the room who's watching this now saw the film first, then the TV, and who saw the TV and then saw the film? Because I think there might be a 50-50 split here. Like I said, to me, it's only because of age. I have to admit I'm younger than you. Sorry about that, Denny, but tough shit. Right, I'm younger, right, and more attractive, and more attractive, and more hair. So up yours. So yeah. You beat me on everything else. Well,
I'll call you 4 I've got glasses myself.
Yeah. You got a house, you got a girlfriend, stuff you. Right now, so it'll be interesting to know whether what people think. I've got a couple of people that have mentioned before, but I can't remember quite whether they said it was the film first or not. But anyway, we moved to Sci. But I get you with the multiple season shows. Too many writers try to get their voices heard. Usually a limited series or mini series is one writer with a solo vision. Yeah, and I think that is too many cooks. And all that sort of stuff spoil the broth, isn't it? And then we've got the other one that's too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
That's proved true, yeah.
And I think that's proved with Hollywood, isn't it? That they got too many execs introduced and said, "Oh, you can't do that."
That's proved true. If anybody's seen Vikings, it's one writer mainly, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. I love the Vikings. Yeah. Although, when something happened, I think it was probably COVID. Actually, I watched up to about season 5, and then I had to try get back into it, and I struggled. But I was mesmerized. That first couple of seasons. Gorgeous, when they were just about to invade Britain and then they were going along the canals and all that sort of stuff. And there was a lot of sex involved as well.
Again,
obviously. But it was that main character, that main driver. I forgot what his name was. What was his Viking name?
Ragnar Lothbrok.
Was that? He was in that Wolves sci-fi TV show, wasn't he? Raised with Wolves. But he was so, I think, magnetic. It's like it's something about his face or his eyes that had this sort of like fierceness in it. And you just went, "Oh, this guy's brilliant." And then it was the ensemble cast around him because there was a thick, demented sort of like one, I think, that was around him that he was always sort of like nice to, but then he did something bad and he fell out of favor with him. Because I always remember it was all about face paint and all sorts of shit that was going on in that Vikings. And then the rest of it was women with their boobs hanging out and all that sort of stuff. But I suffered that for your so that you know that I suffered having all those breasts thrown at me so that I could tell you all about it. That's
I bet you could,
yeah. You believe any of that? That would be. So I saw the film first. There we are. And Ian Hill says, "I've just seen the film," which doesn't tell me whether he actually saw the TV, then saw the film, or what.
No,
I think he said he
didn't say it. No.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, it looks like they're more on your side, which means I think you're all older than me. Then can't help being young, can I? Right. I've talked a lot. Let's you pick on what you'd like to talk about next about Logan's Run. We've talked a little bit about set design. We've talked a little bit about the memories. We've talked a bit about the music, although not enough. We will cover that. What section of Logan's Run do you want to talk about now? Do you want to talk about its premise and whether it
Premise
met
in,
that
yeah,
premise.
premise in society. Obviously there's in the film there's been a breakdown, obviously due to, well, does it say whether there'd been a nuclear war or whether, because I know there was
So
in the
after a nuclear war, there's a
yeah,
big text thing at the beginning.
the TV series was a plague,
Yeah.
and it obviously two different scenarios. In today's society, yeah, as you say, the premise is basically you can have what you want whenever you want, but obviously limited resources mean limited life. You look at today, it's like the Generation Me society. I don't know whether you noticed, everybody wants everything yesterday.
Yeah.
We seem to be going down the same sort of path, and it's quite frightening, really. You look at one side of the coin where Logan's run, everybody was in downs and there was nothing outside. And yet we seem to be heading more towards the soil and green part of it, where
Yes,
we're
with
becoming
overpopulation. Yeah.
overpopulation. I mean, as David Attenborough said, in the next 50 years, we won't be, if we keep going the way we are, we won't be able to grow enough stuff to
Yeah.
feed ourselves. Resources like fuel causing more poverty, because poverty
Yeah.
is, if you think about it, poverty is increased. Society as a whole, through, I'm going to be very careful here what I say. If you look at this, was obviously a Christian country, it's completely changed.
Yeah.
Everybody used to have their own culture. That's all complete. Everything is in one now. Seems to be everything is in one. And you're
Yeah.
coming to this point, like within soil and green, everybody was living on top of each other. Resources are coming shallower. So would we live in a society like Logan's Run? I doubt it very much. I think we're more or less pivoting to. The irony is we are in a Logan's Run type of society where we want everything yesterday, but we're heading more to the soil and green overpopulation. And I would say now we're on the precipice. So I would say, have you seen the downfall of society and man as we know it today? Really,
Yeah.
you can actually see it coming out. Like you say, resources. Where's the next?
I asked you a question. I asked you a question though, didn't I? Before the show, I said, if you were offered the same conditions of a society like Logan's Run, would you take it? And you gave me your answer, and I went, yeah, do damn right. But do you think if that was on a census, as a real serious question, what most of society would say?
It's quite ironic again. I don't know whether you watched the news lately about assisted death.
Oh yes, yeah. And
they're
they're having to go abroad where it's allowed and all
yeah,
that sort of stuff.
Obviously, again, you're touching on the soil and green bit where there was assisted death.
It was in the news, wasn't it? Esther Ranson is dying, isn't she? And she's having to tell her family that she's actually made some sort of
but that's your choice. That's your choice, right? Logan's Run, there was obviously in the Logan's Run type of scenario, there is no choice. You live to 30, then you're disintegrated, cloned, put back out in society again. Would it work now? Because you'd have to have overseers to begin with to make sure the city run. Because I mean, that was another thing that was never touched on in Logan's Run.
Yeah.
Or was it? I mean, I can't remember that. I can't remember if it was or not. How do these computers keep running the city? What happens when they break down? They break down.
Yeah, I tried to fathom that out because I happened to mention to you, didn't I? I said, you got this idyllic society. You work if you want to work. It doesn't seem to be like they offer you anything for doing any work. So where they've got these shops and boutiques and places where you can get a massage and all of this sort of stuff, it seems very much like you're doing it like volunteers work. You're not getting anything for it. It's just
have
like
you asked the question? Have you asked the question as well? What would be the point of living in that society? Yes. What would be the point? Yeah, you get up, you have sex every day. Wouldn't it become boring after a certain time? Boredom. The same thing day in, day out.
Yeah, yeah. But
Nothing
isn't that probably why one of the reasons why Logan questioned it is like, do you think we get renewed?
exactly. But that's I think
Am I happy in my society? Because in the film, it was a definite yes, I'm happy. It was only until 4 years was taken off of him, and he was very close to 30 that he was even thinking. You know what I mean? It was like, oh shit, you could do that to me. Bloody hell.
But I mean, as I said, you look at society today; it's coming apart. It's just literally coming apart at the seams.
But I do look at it like this. You see, if you look at it from a certain point of view, like you've just said, the stark thing that comes into your brain is no, right? But the trouble is, repetition suddenly becomes a norm. And if you grow up in an environment where this is what your norm is, you accept it because there's nothing else. So go 100 years into that type of environment, and it would be, well, I've known nothing else. I've read books about it being like this back then, but I only know this, and I'm not bored because this is all I'm accustomed to doing.
But
You
wouldn't
see
that be
what I mean?
the thing of it, though? Certain people will question, like in Logan's, or I suppose that's the point of it, isn't it? You've got everything, but you still question about certain things within that society.
I'll tell you what, if I went into that Colosseum, into the Colosseum, or the carousel, and I saw all these people exploding, I'll be going, well, where did they go? Where's this renew? How do you know they've been renewed? Do they keep the memories of their old existence when they're renewed? No existence of this, but then again, there's no existence of God, and yet we've gone this approach. So,
but then again, you're right on that. You're right on that point about you grow up in a certain situation. About the young kids now with these, they're fixated. They literally fixated. They'll sit there all day on the phone.
That's their Bible. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they'll sit there all day on the phone. So, I agree with your point, but there are people, I suppose, like me or yourself, we wouldn't sit still for 5 minutes. We'd have to have something. Is there more to it than what there is?
Inquisitive mind, because we always question everything, and I
we need more than what there is. But as I say, as a society as a whole, the whole globe, the whole planet we're living on, I do believe we've seen the decline of society. Down to where you are, it's as though I don't know. We don't seem to be moving forward in anything.
I mean, in certain ways, what you said earlier, I agree and disagree with. Is the fact that there is lots of land out there, but it's in hostile land. That's why we can't live in it, right? And I do remember Tomorrow's World always talking about how we can terraform, how we can turn a desolate land into something where we can grow crops, and that's why. And we're doing this because we want to go to other planets and do the similar thing. So in some ways, when you're talking about overpopulation, I totally agree. But then I don't think anybody's doing enough to turn an inhospitable area into a hospitable area. You see what I mean? I mean, obviously the Sahara Desert's huge, and you couldn't grow anything there. But then again, they said we couldn't go to the moon. I look at these things as have we put enough resource into that? Could we do that? Because I'm so sick of my council building another bloody housing estate that nobody can move into. I wish they'd put that money into growing crops. No, just my little joke. Yeah. I think you understand the sentiment behind it.
Well, it's
Anything else about society you want to talk about? Because I've got some things that I've got. In fact, actually, I'll read them out just in case they're anything to do with what you just said.
It's all right. I'm not confused.
That's all right. I'll wait for you to come back.
No, it's all right. It's all right. My screen went dull. I forgot to turn the power on my laptop.
Oh, bless you. That's all right. Colin says, I have to disagree. We're not on the verge of overpopulation. There are plenty of resources available if they weren't hoarded or made too expensive by the super rich. Would you agree with that statement?
Again, the film Soylent Green, I suppose, to be honest, the more population that we have, as I said, Mr. Attenborough said, if we carry on the way we are another 50 years, we keep producing, there isn't
Yeah.
enough land on the earth to feed us. The super rich will always hoard stuff. That they always will. They always have the best of stuff. I'm not what's the name to that, but
Mm.
up to some point, you are looking at overpopulation. There's no ifs or buts. You're looking at your food now, and you can say it's Brexit all you want. There's shortage
Yeah.
of food, and that's the shortage of food coming into this country. The prices go up.
Yeah.
It's hoarded or not. It's
Yeah.
we're going to overpopulate at some point. Not in our lifetimes.
Aren't there in certain countries like China or Japan where they do actually have a restriction on how many kids you can actually have?
I think they used to have a restriction. I don't know whether it's been
Two,
relaxed.
wasn't it? Wasn't it two or
China,
something like that?
China too. Yeah, and you got fined quite badly if you had any more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you, I mean, because if I remember rightly, that did occur, and that's where I don't know whether the expression 2.5 children comes from, but I do remember I remember my mum and dad talking about it and saying, is that the society that we're heading into now, that we're being controlled on how many you can have in a family? Because I don't think my dad would have liked it if they turned around and said, right, you've had 2 kids now, that's it, chop your knob off. Right? I don't think he'd have liked that one bit. Right. And I don't think I'd want to live in China if they had that sort of restriction there as well. But then at the end of the day,
but that's another subject in it. If they say you can only have 2 children, that's more or less a dictatorship where
yes,
you're not free anymore. You've not got free choice of will.
But we do know that Logan's Run definitely had that in its heart, didn't it? Society, keep society low, and we do that by a culling, because it is a culling. At the end of the day, is keep the numbers down by having some fake death thing.
Right? But when you agree, though, I mean, they was in the dome. They had to be cooled after so long. The planet, obviously, our planet is obviously a mass bigger than the dome, but it's like another dome, isn't it? You can only have so many people on it before something has to happen.
Are they also clones?
Yes, they're all clones. Yeah, they're all clones.
Yeah, so wouldn't the very nature of cloning mean that you'd be what do I call it? Diluting the well of where the cells come from. So basically, you've got no growth whatsoever. You can't evolve. You're coming from a well of all of that sort of stuff because you're born from a test tube.
Yeah.
So again, that wasn't really. It's talked about, but only sort of like in per se. Like they're clones. Then they're given a crystal that gives them the life expectancy, and then they live their lives. That's all it says in the film. It's literally a 30-second thing where it's described. If you think seriously, I think though about how that works, I don't think the author was thinking right along this, because at the end of the day, the gene pool, it would, you'd be dead after so many generations. You know what I mean? Where are you going to keep all these cells? Every time that there's somebody reproduces from a clone to another clone, you're weakening the gene pool, surely.
But I mean, the thing is, why did anybody build any? Another thing is, why did anybody ever bother building a dome in the first place? For what purpose? To let people die at 30? There'd be no point to it, is there? Because it's just like a big petri dish, and you just go live through 30 years dead, live through 30 years dead. There's no movement, there's no advancement, there's nothing, is there?
No.
And they never go on about medicine either, do they? I don't think.
No, but I said that about it. I said it's not really made clear on whether there's lots of domes or whether the whole of the world is pretty much desolate apart from this dome place. So I was thinking to myself, what's the biggest landmass that you could build this dome thing then? Because are you talking about several thousand people and that's what the population is reduced down to? Or are we talking about the several of these domes? They all live in exactly the same sort of way and they all communicate with between each other or what? Because it's not explained very well.
I mean,
I don't know what the book says.
I don't read books myself. I'm more visual myself. So if anybody who reads the books can tell us, that'd be
well.
interesting.
Steve does, so I'll ask him that. I'll turn around and say, "Oh, you bastard! What does it say in that book, Steve? You've got us all fixated now on what's going on." But there we go. So we'll move on, and we've got Ian Hill, The Ramblings. Isn't continual self-gratification the road to boredom? So a society cannot develop on this premise. Well, I think that's just agreeing with your side of things, Denny. Personally, I definitely could do with a bit of self-gratification. I haven't had enough of it. And I could do with more of it before I'm too old to do it. So there you are. I've let the cat out of the bag there. No, but I'm in agreement. You know, this is what I'm saying. Like in the gaming community, it's something that we've been well aware of now for at least 15 years, and that is the internet has given us a base where we can get whatever we want. Emulation has allowed us to emulate anything that we ever want. We can now have thousands of games, and we can all have it right now. The problem is, I now have got so many games, I can't see the wood for the trees. I don't know what to play next. I look at it and I go, no, I'm not in the mood for that. I'm not in the mood for that. I'm not in the mood for that. By the time I get to the bottom of the list and I find the game I want, it's time to go to bed because and fall asleep. And that's because self gratification. I wanted everything. I'm a collector. I have to have everything. And yet, when I was drip fed it, I had the most fun. When it was, this is coming out next week. This is coming out next week. This is coming out next month. This is what's in development. It'll be out next year. That's where you're excited. So when you look historically at something now, there's so much of it. I just don't know what to play first. It's like a kid in a candy store, they call it, don't they? But I always look at that.
It's like knowing a bit of piece of news. It's on the internet, isn't it? Straight away, where we used to have TV Zone or Starburst, and you'd say, "Oh my, I can't believe I'm producing this. I can't believe that's coming back." Now it's the excitement for next month's gone, hasn't it? You know.
Sometimes I buy a magazine literally and turn to the last page where it says, "And in next month's edition, we're going to be having an interview with Jeff Minter talking about his Jeff Minter's coming out of the game. Shit, come on, get them for what it now." Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd be there. I'd turn to the back page because I wanted to know what the next game was that was coming out. Right? I've already got this month's that I can read whenever I want that tells me about the games that are out now or are going to come out next week. Right? But the next month where they've seen into the future and they've said, "Oh, yeah, we're doing this," I'm going, right, now I'm interested. And I can't wait. And it was the way that I kept moving forward was like that. Month by month by month. And it seemed like I had as much time as I needed ever because I wasn't counting down. Every time I did that, I was counting my life away. Yeah. Now I go, shit, I've got my payday and I'm living by payday to payday. But at the end of the day, I've just written another month off my life.
Yeah.
I ain't got too many of them left. Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
I should be living day by day like I did before. You know what I mean? I was never going, "Oh, yeah, I can't wait to the end of the month." No, I weren't. I was going, "Well, I can't wait to the end of the week. Then I'm going to go out and get pissed." That's about as long as it went. I didn't think that 5-year plan that everybody keeps talking about when you're in an interview with somebody. Say, "Well, where do you want to be in 5 years' time?" Your job, mate. You don't do that in an interview either.
No.
You won't get a job with that one. But I could give you one that's a killer question. I told you it, Denny, didn't I, once? I was at an interview and this bloke came out with the killer answer, didn't I? At the end of the interview, we asked him, "Was there anything that you want to ask us or anything like that?" And he said, and it was a bloke, he turned around and he said, "Is there anything about me that you don't like that would stop me from getting the job?" Or it was a similar one like that. And you went, "Oh, shit. Anything about this interview where we can't give you the job?" No, you're certainly good. But the only thing we could turn around and say, But we have seen other candidates, so obviously, you know, we can't answer that sort of like question. But it's a killer question because it's like, because if you ever get the letter that says, "I'm sorry, but you didn't get the job," and you write back and say, "Can you give me some advice about my interview techniques to see whether I can improve for my next job because I'm still unemployed?" No, you'll never get a reply back. Ever.
No.
So you're left wondering, what the hell did I do wrong then? Anyway, we're moving into work, and we shouldn't be talking about that. Let's see. Collins put, "If we can terraform another world, we can fix this one." Very true.
If
I think this world's worth fixing. I don't think we do enough of turning uninhabitable places into habitable places. I do think we ought to put more resource into that. They say they do, but it's always for farming land. In other words, land that's not that far gone that you could bring it back to life. I'm talking about bringing something that's virtually dead that you could bloody build upon it, and you build upon it. That's where I think the money should be going into, because I'd love it if you could actually start building in the Sahara Desert. Yeah, I know a few people I'd send there.
Well, I mean, I agree with Colin. Yeah, and Berium, yeah. But maybe there's other point, you know. This will never happen because of these elites, these big businesses. They'll never allow it. They're too greedy.
Yeah, but it's just that every time when I was growing up and I watched films like Thelma and Louise, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and all of that, every time I looked at America, there seemed to be huge amounts of land. And there was one road that took you to a town, and this town had about 5 houses there or something, and then you went to another one, right? And yet they're all. Then when 5 years later, they're showing you pictures of LA where every single freeway is chock a block, and all you see is smog because everybody can't get on the freeway to get anywhere. So it takes about 3 hours to get to work. I'm going, why is it that you only have to travel 15 miles outside of LA? You've got a single track road and all this land, which has got nothing growing on it. You've got this land. Everybody's living on it, and everybody can't get anywhere because if you walked out your front door, you'd be bumping into a queue of 17 people walking past, because that's what they make it out to be. So I do think to myself, what are they doing in America then? What is this uninhabitable land? Because I've been over there, driven along those roads, and I saw plenty of places where you could be building. So it must be owned by someone then that's stopping you from doing it. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, it carries on. The population rise is actually slowing. I can't say yes or no to that. I haven't looked at any figures. Possibly. And I wouldn't put it past that that's true. China, not anymore. Hang on, just bear with me. China, right. China, not anymore. So that's where we were talking about the 2 children, I think.
Yeah.
My typing sucks.
You ain't saying mine.
Bloody Colin, it does not, but I know I've been there before when I've tried to, and then my bloody fat fingers have gotten in the way and I've put something stupid down. And then we've got more to buy. This is me and tech. Yes. Not quite sure where that kind comes from, but I do remember I was talking about we live in a society now where we can have anything that we want. I love tech. If you throw me another piece of technical equipment to me, I'm a happy chappy. You give me a new camera, it's like, what can it do? You know, I'm like that. I can't afford the damn things. That's all. That's the problem. I want so much stuff that I haven't got enough space on my credit card to buy them. Anybody who's seen my blogs knows that I'm really, really nearly there on talking myself in buying a Genos keyboard. Right, the Genos 2 is a Yamaha workstation keyboard that's just come out, and it costs £4,500. Right now, because that machine has only been out 3 weeks, so many people are musicians that are jobbing musicians. They actually go out to hotels and do playing keyboards in hotel lobbies and stuff, that they're trading their old machine that they've had now for the last 5 years, called the Genos 1, been carting it about, they're taking it in for trade. So they'll, they'll say, yeah, you bring your old keyboard in, we'll give you $2,500 for it, right? Which means that there are now all these Genos ones, so they're selling them in these keyboard stores now for $2,000. Now this was a flag. This would have cost you £4,500 last month because the new machine hadn't come out. So it is a flagship from the past for $2,000. And I'm going, yeah, I could do with that. My keyboard's pretty old. Oh, those sounds, they sound really good. That piano is amazing. It's so much better than the piano sound that I've got. I want it. But $2,000. You know what I mean? It's like, how long would it take me to pay off my credit card to get $2,000? You know what I mean? I'm like this. And then something else always comes along. So tomorrow, my car goes in for its MOT. Oh, wrong time for me to go in and get a Genos keyboard, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? That was stupid of you. And yet I'm stupid enough back in the day where I'd have, if my MOT goes through and I've got to pay nothing on my car, I think I'll treat myself by going to that keyboard place and buying that keyboard. I used to do stupid things like that. Oh, if I don't smoke for a month and I used to buy a packet of fags every 2 or 3 days, that would save me 100 and something pounds. I think I'll go to Morrison's and buy 6 PlayStation 5 games. That's what I used to do. Right? And then I'd go, yeah, but I still want a fag. So I'd have bought them all, and then I'll still say, because I just taught me, you know what I mean? I taught myself into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I relinquish on that. Anyway, we've got one more question from Steve here, and then what we got here? Let's have a look. I'd just like to say, I always thought the guns in Logan's Run were just super cool. Maybe not Liberator handguns cool, but close. Well, the Liberator ones, if I remember rightly, they were like a stem coming out with a sort of like circles. It used to be in a holster. I think the Logan's Run one is like a Glock hand pistol with a big barrel silencer at the end, wasn't it? It used to make a big noise.
But you have to see it flash at the end when they used to shoot as well, which was brilliant. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I think the guns possibly in Logan's Run actually beat the Liberator ones because I always thought they looked like they look plasticky. I have to say, I don't want to poo-poo anything because I love Blake 7. You know how much I love Blake 7, right? It's just it was a lot of it's just a lot of transparent circles with a stem in the middle.
Yeah, you're on very thin ice, are you?
I'm not gonna dig myself any deeper on that one.
That was.
Let's talk about the music then of Logan's Run. Now I'll start this one off because I've already talked really what I was going to talk about.
I'll be honest with you. Where the music's concerned, I've only just started, as you know, I've got quite a few, a bit of selection, but not into it like you was. And
no.
I mean, I've actually started to get into it now.
There is actually an album of the TV series music out.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Which I found out the other day. I didn't really look before. All I know is that my dad brought me up to like Jerry Goldsmith. I mean, it was all Ennio Morricone or Jerry Goldsmith in my dad's eyes. So I was brought up on spaghetti westerns, Ennio Morricone and his fantastic stuff. If it was psychological, it was Bernard Herrmann, and if it was anything else, it was like Jerry Goldsmith. It was like, those sort of like were on we had racks, of albums, on the shelves, and those were there. When what I did hear about with Logan's Run and the musical direction, first of all, they said yes, we're not going to go with the Jerry Goldsmith score, and I believe the reason for that is that it would cost too much for Jerry Goldsmith to be paid for the theme music every episode that came out. So they actually called in a stock musician, and that's where we get Lawrence Rosenthal from, because he was very much a stock musician of the day, playing for the studios. He wrote a lot of TV music, but what I did hear is that he went wrong. He did something that he shouldn't have done, and a lot of people are divided by this. When people hear the Logan's Run theme, there's nothing that turns around and says it's a horrible theme. It's just it's got this horrible pew 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 all the way through it, right? You'll hear when you watch the TV show moments of that music being played by an orchestra, and it sounds lovely. Right at the beginning, you've got this loud main theme, and the only thing you come away with is pew 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 pew, like that every
But that was
couple of seconds.
That was very much the 70s, though, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, disco, synth, lasers, blah blah blah. Right. I think people have adjusted to it now and look back at it and go, it weren't that bad. But I thought that it sounded very science fiction-y, so I liked it. But I can imagine people of my age watching it back then going, what the hell's that? The only thing you knew was, well, you could tell when that show was on because that bloody music's on again. Bloody, off. You know what I mean? It weren't exactly like the Starsky and Hutch TV theme, was it? You know, all the screeching and all that sort of stuff, right? The Lalo Schifrin, by the way, track is always my favorite of the Starsky and Hutch TV themes. That's the first season. But anyway, so when it comes to the music, it's mixed. There's no denying that Lawrence Rosenthal did absolutely fantastic work because he did Meteor and all that sort of stuff.
Yes,
the TV music is great. There is some stock music that's not done by him in it as well. And you could say the main theme was a disaster, but I think history has shown it's not that bad. People remember it and go, oh, yeah, I remember that tune. And they don't think too badly of it. When it comes to the film, big budget, big orchestra, big man doing it. Nothing else to say about it. It stands on its own plinth. It's brilliant. Anybody that wants to go and listen to Logan's Run, and you're offered 2 albums, there would be no question from my point of view. Go and listen to the Jerry Goldsmith score. If you're only allowed to listen to one of them, that's my answer. Okay, that's the end of my little talk about the music. We'll just see whether there's any questions that have come up. Colin says, no credit card here, mind. If I can't afford it, goes on the list till I can. He's very good, you know, Colin. Right. I wish I was like that. I see it, I want it. Jamie, since the 70s. Well, that's you and followed down, you bastard. What have I done there? What did I say? What did I say? Oh,
like 7. I told you he was on thin ice.
Ah, well. He'll sub me again. Jones. I'm worried now. I've got to see whether my numbers are going down now by the end of this. I've lost 5. Lost 5. Colin Jones got a big smiley face on there. Yeah, because I've lost subs. Soundtrack sounds like Tangerine Dream.
It was actually.
Yeah, in a way of a certain year, but not totally. Because I mean, if you listen to like Street Hall and those Roland synths, I think they used back then, that very much was more a beat. You know, it was and then it was long synths over the top of a fast beat. What Leonard Rosenthal did was melancholy sweet with a short stopping synth sound over the top, which is the reverse. If you think about it, so you got a lovely underlying orchestra bit with this horrible lasery synth over the top. That's what people were saying. And then of course with Tangerine Dream, it's fast beats with long notes played on a synth. You see what I mean? Over the top. Very much Jean-Michel Jarre. There we go. Let's have a look. Yeah. So what would you like us now to talk about when it comes to Logan's run?
What about some of the guest stars?
Yes, why not? Yeah, you carry away. Carry on. You've got the stage.
I've got the bit. Well, Jessica Menzies, was it not Jessica Menzies? Heather Menzies, who played Jessica.
Yeah.
She was one of the Von Trapp children out of The Sound of Music. There was actually two others that appeared in it as well. One was Angela Cartwright, who was in it.
You know that I know which one you're going to come out with, and he's my Spider-Man man. Go on.
Yeah, Nicholas Hammond. Yeah, both was Von Trapp children as well. Obviously, people know Angela Cartwright from Lost in Space. And Nicholas Hammond, I remember from, yes, Spider-Man, amongst other things. Yeah. But there's so many, like you said, Kim Cattrall.
Kim Cattrall. She was in everything, though. She was in The Hulk. She got about a bit. She was in Columbo. She was.
Porky's is the one I remember really mainly. You know, why did they call me Lasso?
Well, that's a film. I'm talking about TV series. Yeah, it's like she was the guest of the month in just about everything. Fantasy Island. She just went everywhere.
You're saying that though. Well, some of the ones you've listed, a lot of these guest stars was all in it at the time as well. The Lisa Enbacher was it? She was in Beverly Hills Cop, the original, the lady in that. Yeah. I don't know whether I've crucified her name. She was in the Twilight Zone, Beverly Hills Cop, you name it. I'll take it from my list. Jared Martin, everybody knows from Fantastic Journey, but the two producers that come in after, who was sacked? Saul David was sacked. Somebody Roth and Robert, I think. They were actually producers on the Fantastic Journey as well. They come into the Fantastic.
Right, yeah.
So Jared Martin, as everybody knows, was in War of the Worlds, the series, Dallas, Knight Rider, Tales of the Gold Monkey, all of them. Let's see if you remember this. Lance Legault. Do you remember him?
Was he like a big-ish old bloke, and he was in Planet of the Apes?
I don't know about.
Like one of the main tribes people, you know, because he was always that sort of like big.
But he was in a series I don't really remember called Werewolf. Do you remember that? That short series called Werewolf.
Ooh,
yeah.
You're asking me a question now.
He was in quite a lot. Sledgehammer, the A-Team, Airwolf, Automan, Knight Rider.
Yeah. I think I know it is, and I think I'm along the right lines. There was the bloke who was in V. You know, the main bloke who was in V.
Yeah.
And he was fighting his dad, and that's the actor that I'm talking about. And it was called The Tribes, and it was the second episode of Planet of the Apes. Right? They're walking from place to place, and there's these tribes. These humans were fighting each other because they were being bred to play in the games. What I'm saying is, there's this one actor, you can't miss him. He was pretty strong, pretty bulky, and he played the dad, but he looked like a gladiator. You know what I mean?
I mean, obviously, people can't put. If you could see the face, you go, "Oh yeah."
I was thinking of someone else. Yeah,
yeah. But it was Gerard McRaney. Do you remember him at all? Gerard McRaney, Deadwood, 24, Longmire.
That's what I know him from Deadwood. You see.
Yeah, he was Farrah Fawcett, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Another little bit of trivia there. The ones who come in and replace Saul David, they were the producers on Charlie's Angels.
That's right. I did read about that. It was Charlie's Angels, wasn't it? That they came.
Now, I don't know whether she got the gig after or was it before. I can't remember that now.
Yeah.
When did Charlie's Angels come out?
Her iconic poster, which was around the time that she married Lee Majors, is the 70s, 77, and this show was 77. So
it was after. So she must have got the part really from that. That's the main ones. I mean, I do recognise some others, but I doubt anybody had recognised those faces. But those were the main ones. But obviously, out of all them, the mouse Jared Martin would be the one people I think would remember the most. He was on everything. Really.
I think it's funny, but I bet you over in the States when you were watching that show, you were going. It was like, oh, she's in it again, is she? She was only in that episode from last week or whatever it was. You know what I mean? It was like it's like they were stock sort of like actors on a sort of like a carousel, if I have to say it, carousel, right? With carousel being in this bit, right? That after you've been on Logan's Run, you're going to Planet of the Apes, love, right? When you got finished with Planet of the Apes, you go to the Fantasy Island. And after you've been on Fantasy Island, you go to the Love Boat.
I mean,
after you've done the Love Boat, you go to.
It was quite surprising when you look at all these actors. They were all in the same things. They were all in, probably the 70s. Was it a close-knit TV community where they had particular actors, or I don't know. You know, but
we look back at it now and just go, "Oh wow!" But back then, it must have been. That's just another day. It's just another week. There's so much product that's being made that's going out because there's so many channels in the States. There was more then. That you needed that fresh acting talent to come in because it takes time for an actor to get their name. You saw the same actors going around playing the same sort of roles in everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But obviously, Angela Cartwright was the one for me when I saw her, because I remember watching it, the DVD, when I was in Wales.
She Rem's love interest. She was the robot that fell in love with the robot.
No, that was another lady. That was another lady. She was in The Incredible Hulk as well. I can't remember the name.
That's right. That was Marriage, wasn't it? Marriage. She was the doctor, wasn't she? That she died of cancer.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But Angela Cartwright, she was grown up at this point. I mean, it was another 10 years after Lost in Space, and she had filled out quite rather into that garment.
That's right. Lost in Space, we know her from, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a fair few guest stars. It's, as you say, it's quite surprising where they pop up.
Yeah. But for a show that's cancelled midway as well.
Yeah. It's quite surprising. You have quite a lot of good actors, and even with good actors, sometimes it just never gains traction. But that's the studio's fault in it, really. But it was just, I mean, another point about the costumes they all used to wear. I didn't realise, but it was put about that the coloured costumes they all used to wear was what age group they were as well. I'm sure red.
So if you were 30, red, you were getting close to the end because that's what your crystal was, wasn't it? It was red.
But the TV series, they never had nothing on the palm. Did you know that? Now, in the TV series, there's nothing on the palm. So how would they know what age they were unless they're dressed in those coloured tunics? But that's what they said. They used to wear the coloured tunics for what age they were, which makes sense if you think about it. It does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but it makes it very boring. What shall I wear tomorrow? Actually, I'm still 29, so I'll have to wear yellow. All right. That's a bit.
Yeah, it's not my colour.
You know what I mean? I'd be a bit. If I was a woman, I'd be a bit pissed off with that. Like, I can only wear yellow for the next 10 years because it's done by decades.
Yeah. Could you imagine one of the Sandmen saying to the computer, "Well, I identify as Jessica." And bugger off.
I tell you what, that was the one thing though that I do remember about the TV series that I didn't get. Right, because I'd already talked about it with the clothes. Right, that if you knew Sandmen looked like that, with the striped top, the polo neck and everything. If you turn yourself into a runner and you get outside the domes and you're looking for other runners, right? Aren't you a target being shot at? Because I tell you what, if a runner sees a Sandman outside the dome, they're going to go fucking kill him.
Yeah,
he's got out the dome. He's going to kill us. Kill him. He doesn't change his clothes through the whole of that TV series, and he's looking for runners dressed as a Sandman.
Yeah.
Well, he ain't going to look very friendly then, is he?
But the irony when they say they're trying to find sanctuary.
Yeah, I know.
Getting out the dome would be sanctuary, wouldn't it?
That's what I was thinking. It was a bit like The Prisoner. Do you remember the end of The Prisoner?
Yeah.
The ending remark of The Prisoner is, "Where have you escaped? Because you're a prisoner of conformity." Right. That's the big message of the whole of the TV series. Sorry if I've ruined that for you, that you're not going to go out now and watch The Lovely Prisoner that had 20 or 18 or so episodes. I can't remember quite. But right at the end, you see Patrick Rigo's face. The prisoner comes up, and it's still behind bars because he escaped the island, but he's still a prisoner on how government's going to treat you. You know, you're going to have to go to work. You're going to have to sleep when I say, wake up when I say, and everything else. You've escaped to nowhere. You are still a prisoner. And that was the whole point. So when you get out, is that sanctuary? It's weird. But I always thought that when they got out, they were looking for a place. I don't think there was anything in my mind that they weren't looking for a place called sanctuary. I like you though. Yes, I should think that getting out the dome, the original Chinese whisper would be when you get out, that's sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
Not there's a place called sanctuary where there are parrots, you know, and trees and palm trees and water and people that come up and give you pina coladas and waterfalls and stuff, right? There's sanctuary, right? I always thought it was really iconic a little bit, the TV series, when she gets the ank out and she presses is it the G on the word danger and it opens the door? Because it sort of glowed and then disappeared. I thought, wow, that was really good.
But it's,
and I could
it's, I mean, it goes into the mythos, you know, sanctuary. Was it like a religion? Was sanctuary like the mythos of the religious part?
Yeah.
Of it? You know,
I mean, I'm a sucker for science fiction, you see.
But it is because you can ask questions that that's not quite there. Is there on the
what I was going to say is in Planet of the Apes, my favorite episode was when, you know, our two astronauts, one of them gets trapped underground with Urko, and they realize they are back on Earth. There's all these pictures of gorillas in the zoo. That's the realization thing. So, of course, my favorite episode in Logan's Run is the future time travel story. It's the loop. It's the looped story. A bloke comes 200 years into the future to see what's happened. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, so I won't say what he did and what ramifications are for that story. But it's a well-trodden science fiction story. And if you look at all 14 episodes in retrospective, you'd say that was a standout episode. In fact, I can't think of any other episode that would actually top that. Then there's a couple that might come close, but that one is the one that you go, oh wow. And I don't know if it's because we like looking back at ourselves. You know what I mean? Because Logan's Run is a picture of the future looking back. And you see this 200-year-old man go into the future to see what we're looking at. And in Planet of the Apes, it's the realization you're back on the planet and you can see all the, you know, that Mother Nature has taken over and the fact that everything that we've ever come to love is now buried under dust. Do you know what I mean? Those are the things that we love about it. Anything you want to add about favorite episodes? Because you know, obviously I like the REM episode, obviously with him falling in love and all that.
There was two others. I'm just remembering that the one was Fear Factor. No, that's not Fear Factor. Are
these midway through? Are they at the beginning?
Yeah, sorry. Episode 7, Crypt, where they find an underground room with 6 survivors of a nuclear holocaust, cryonically frozen.
Yeah, I'd have liked a story like that. You see, straight away.
One story as well where, Man Out of Time. No, not that one. There was one where there was, or was it that one where there was frozen? There was an antidote for 2 people. They were sick. There was an antidote for 2, and then there was an earthquake, and he broke the one. I can't remember which that one was. But then there was my second favourite to that one, Man Out of Time, was Night Visitors, about a haunted house, devil worshipping ghosts.
I remember sort of like ghostly heads away from bodies and stuff. It's sort of very dark with coloured, colour.
I thought that was a brilliant episode. That one vividly stands out. It's, but that one was good. With the one that was after the nuclear war, that was put into these tubes and then that just come across them. And
Yeah.
there was one where they went back to Carousel, but the one where they went back to Carousel, which is episode 11, bit of a strange one, that, because I was travelling away, and all of a sudden, that couldn't have gone that far because I was back at Carousel.
Well, this is the thing. I think somebody famously turned around and said in another documentary on this. It seemed to me like they were trying to find sanctuary and that they were moving away, but they kept going back to the dome, which seems to indicate to me they were just going around in circles.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
all they were doing was just going around the skirts of this city, and that's where I think maybe we would have learned a little bit more if Logan's Run would have continued, on whether there was one big dome city, and that's why you hadn't actually returned to the city, you were actually at another city, or whether you were another quadrant of it, because we never saw a floor plan. It's not like Center Parks, with their domes.
Yeah, well, it's
You know what I mean, right? You didn't. They always talked about quadrants in the dome, but you didn't know whether there were 3 carousels, 4 carousels, 1 carousel. Everybody lived in this domed environment, and that they had a precinct and all of this sort of stuff. And what you're seeing is they're all linked together, or whether it's that is the layout of each dome, and there are lots of them. You don't know. So that's where I'm saying, was this all set in America because everywhere else is burnt out?
Yeah, it could be anywhere, couldn't it, really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we'd have learned a little bit more, which is why it was interesting when he kept going away. The more he was going away, there was no beach, there was no water. You saw the odd canal, but you didn't see a sea. They weren't by the coast. You know what I mean? I don't think there was a coast episode, was there? No.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember, to be honest. But I mean, the first episode was good. It was just the first episode. It was, I think there's something wrong here, Francis. Don't you have a question? Don't we? And the next thing, he was out running with Jessica. So it was like, I mean, network television. It was quick, but obviously using the props, it looked brilliant for me. It was like as I said, the Irwin Allen thing. The Time Tunnel was a perfect example of using stock footage and props. And it looked brilliant. It looked like part of it looked like the feature film, but like you said, you could always tell. You got the stock stuff.
Right. Of all of those episodes that you've just mentioned, did Francis, the Sandman chasing after Logan, ever have a good episode where he shone, or did he have an episode that was all to himself where it was a little bit about him?
Yeah,
because usually you have a series, and if you have somebody that's chasing you or something, you'll have an episode which would have been all about him and that he's not that bad. It's just that he's doing a job and all that sort of stuff, and that's what you learn about him in that one episode. So
obviously it started in the very first one because obviously there was a difference to the film. The film was based on a computer. The actual Dome City was run by a group of elders. And obviously he got to meet them, and the prize was for Francis: bring back Jessica and Logan,
and you could become an elder.
You could become an elder and live. But there was one episode, and I can't remember which one it was. He was captured, and Francis rescued them from the captors. There was that was warriors or something that caught Rem, Jessica, and Logan, and he rescued them, and he let them go, and he says, until next time. So basically, that was telling you. Was it telling you then that he had issues with bringing his friend in? Was he starting to question?
Yeah, because they were big friends, weren't they? It was just that Francis seemed to be the more. I'm questioning nothing. I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'm loving where I'm at. But even after the revelation of that's what old people look like, I can look like that, can I? I can live beyond 30. He was willing to throw all of that away, that friendship, to have that type of power, which makes me think, what sort of a friendship did he think he really had? Because if you could be swayed that quick, he couldn't have been a very good friend. Because it would take me a while to make a decision like that I'd be happy. But if the alternative is death, and you've now realized that these elders are actually killing off everybody off. There is no. Then I'd be going, oh, right. So the only existence I've got then is if I do this for you. That's a pretty big incentive. I think I'll go out there then and find my friend and bring him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Was it a way of starting to question their motives? Like you say, do I want to become an elder? I can live free.
Yeah.
Low. It's a pity it never went any further. But that episode was episode 13 called Turnabout. The runners are captured by desert dwellers and condemned to death. Francis attempts to rescue the trio. So that was episode 13. So yeah.
one before the end. That's it.
And he let them go. He did actually let them go at the end of the episode and says, well, until next time, you got a head start. So he was questioning it. There's no doubt he was questioning it. Yeah. So
we got some questions again coming in. That's good. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to catch up on. So let's have a look. Cy Robson, the Michael Bay movie has just come to mind with the talk of Logan's Run. In that movie, the people on the island are clones and they're organ donors for the 1% of the 1%.
The island.
Is it? Oh, the island. Is that the one with Ewan McGregor in?
Oh, if that's the one you're thinking of, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I suppose actually that we were talking about what films are similar to this, and I mentioned Justin Timberlake was in a film called In Time, which was very similar, where a society makes you work, and you work to get yourself a longer life, and you have a digital clock on your inside of your wrist, and you had to. A piece of equipment would pass over the top of your wrist, and if you worked an 8-hour day, they'd give you your 8 hours back. But you were constantly having to top up. If you didn't actually get to that man that would be able to up your clock, then basically you were dead. So he found a way that I think in the film where he was given like 5 years of life. But his mum was still only working on this 8-hour premise that if you don't do some work the next day and you don't come here, then basically you're going to die at pretty much 1 o'clock that day. But people can pass their time to each other to make them live. So, of course, he wanted to help his mum. And they were running towards each other. The clock was ticking down. There was 1 second to go. All he had to do was just touch her wrist and she'd have lived. But she fell down flat dead, like missed her by a second. I went, oh, bastard. But but what I like about it is that he got all this 5 years of life by gambling. He actually won the pot in a game. And of course, there's all these people that are chasing down people that have got lots and lots of years on them. So they're sort of like hiding their wrists, because it's like, oh no, mate, I've only got 8 hours to live. There's no point trying to attack me. When actually these people were going around like Mad Max, hunting them down, getting their wrists and going, hey, I'm having all that time off of you. And they touch it, drag all the money out, drag all the time out of them, and then they're dead. It's an interesting flick, but it doesn't have it has a bad rep. Not a lot of people talk about it. Not a lot of people watched it. Not a lot of people have seen it, but I think it's worth a watch. It's one of those, it's interesting because of the premise rather than the execution. Do you know what I mean? But from that point of view, you might get some fun out of it. So that's my talk on not the Michael Bay film, but another film similar to Logan's Run, which is all about society and living on a time limit, all brought into one. Cy Robinson says, just wondering if they took inspiration from Logan's Run. That's when he's talking about the island. I think so, possibly. Cloning for definite, because I do believe that they were all living on this island underground, weren't they? They tried to escape from it, didn't they? And underneath there, they all wore white or something. I can't remember. They all wear like bodysuits, didn't they? Like leotard type things. Can't quite remember. Been a long time since I've seen the island. I remember he poked his head up though, from escaping from the place, and then he was just running along some sand or something. And it was like, oh, they've reached Earth. Now they realise that they've just been living underground or whatever it is. It's all like nothing has been like what they thought it was going to be. Colin Thompson says, I noticed the camera crew reflected off the robot in Logan's run. Yes, the robot was very, very silver, and it had that Robbie the Robot voice type thing. It says plankton, all of this sort of stuff, right? Very, very silver. I mean, the silverest of aluminium silver that you could have. But I don't remember seeing the film crew. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember.
No, I don't think I looked that closely because I think I was too closely looking at Jenny Agutter. Possibly.
I say the last time I caught something unawares, and I've watched it Christmas after Christmas, was Scrooge: A Christmas Carol. And there's one scene where he's coming round, he's looking in the mirror, you can see the cameraman in the reflection of the mirror. I'd never seen it to that point, yeah. So yeah, I'll have to have a look for that.
I used to read books on all of the, like the Star Trek goofs. Like there's a famous one in a mock time with Spock has got to mate or something, otherwise he's going to go into pond foul or whatever it is, and he turns up and to Pring's there and everything. In one scene, he's like this, deep into this Vulcan problem that he's got, where his blood's boiling. And then in the next scene, you see him looking around like this with his arms behind his back, looking around like that. And then they cut to Spock and he's like this again. And I every time I watch that episode, I'm going, like, there he is. Look, he's just looking around and the camera's looking at him. And then when they do a panning shot of Vulcan, you see the studio lights at the top because they cropped it wrong. So you see the red lights going there.
Oh, no.
And I've got books that tell you about all the gaffes that are going on in there. And I read it to bits, and then I watched the episodes with it. And I was going, yeah, I found it. I was just there. They're right. I was just there.
But Lost in Space was like that with the robot with Bob May. You could see his feet all the while.
Yeah.
It's just the charm in it,
It is good, but it gives you an incentive. That's what I sort of like think, to watch it again. You know what I mean? Not that I need too much of an incentive on certain stuff, but I do on others. You know what I mean? To get me through a season, I might. Yeah. Buffy Fantastico. Wow. Hello, Buffy Fantastico. A new name. Nice to meet you here. I hope you're still watching. You've put evening. Weirdly, I've just rewatched the Logan's Run series this past week. Great stuff. Shame they didn't make more. Yeah, I think we're coming to a conclusion shortly. I think we're probably going to come back and say, yeah, it didn't deserve some of the negativity, but we haven't got quite there yet. We haven't quite there. So we'll continue. You've written a bigger one here, look, Buffy. You put, as there is no proper ending, I would suggest anyone that hasn't seen it already leaves episode 5. That's my favorite one, 5 Man at a Time, until the final episode, as at least this would sort of serve as an open ending. Yeah, you're damn right. Yeah, not to give too much of an away. It is a classic time travel quip in that episode, and right at the end, they're debating existence. That's all I'm going to say.
I know.
And I think, that would probably make, if you were putting it into a running order, that would probably make sense to have that as the last one. Yeah. You can make your own decisions up there, couldn't you? Good one. Thanks, Buffy, for that.
Hello, Steve.
Stephen Taylor. Was this one of your friends that because you're going, hello, Steve?
He's on Discord, Steve.
Oh, God, yes. Sorry. I can't remember names. I'm shit. Steve, hello, mate. How are you? I hope you're all right. I'm looking after Denny. Going to punch him in the face later, but Anyway, hi, Dan and Denny. Whose Logan performance did you prefer, Michael York or Gregory Harrison? Well, I've got an easy one for answer for that one. Do you want me to go first?
Go on then.
Well, I think Gregory Harrison was a bit stiff. I think Michael York shows a more acting spectrum because he goes from being I'm all this to then questioning himself and then opening to new ideas and then totally U-turning and being the man of all people. And I think Gregory, from the very beginning, he was questioning. In fact, I think the very first scene is at Carousel with him. He's going, is there really afterlife, do you think? Is there, you know what I mean? you don't even see the persona of how he was like Francis. He acted very much like Francis did, Michael York, and then he turned. Do you see what I mean? So I'm going to say Michael York pips Gregory Harrison, just because the very nature of the TV series didn't give you enough time to see him as a Sandman long enough for him to be anything other than he's been questioning this all his life. You don't see the biggest range.
Well, now then, this it's going to sound a bit biased, but it's not. Some of my favourite films, Andre Dumas, the Musketeers.
Yeah,
Michael York. I agree with you, but as a caveat, films and TV are totally two separate things. So we've got to keep that in mind. But at the two actors delivering it, Michael York, definitely. But Gregory done a good job. I mean, he went on to Trapper MD, didn't he, as well, later? Trapper John.
Yeah. But that was a show that I didn't really watch too much of.
No, I didn't. But it was the way the script was, I suppose. You had to go with the script. But, yeah, it was more like... how do I put this? It was delivered sterilely compared to Michael York, where he got to act for the film, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. The only thing I'm saying about Gregory's performances is the other thing I don't think they did in Logan's run was a recap story. Do you remember when we were back in the dome and when this happened and they do a recap story? You know how every series seems to have that end of season recap story saying this happened, and all of that, and it's like a dream sequence. All I'm saying is Gregory didn't have time to shine to show him anything other than what he was, which is a runner that's now running, and he's now sensitive, not a fix, not a like a conformed, brainwashed type person. Where Michael York only had an hour and 40 minutes or 2 hours to do that, and they gave him enough time.
But saying that the pilot was 75 minutes for Logan's run. It was 75. Yeah. So really, they had the chance to more or less.
Yeah, but they did everything that they got out the dome in 15 minutes.
That's correct. Yeah, that probably
it took 45 minutes to nearly an hour to get out the dome.
But a film is completely different to a television series. The makeup is completely different, and you've got to get a TV audience to latch onto them. It's got to go. It's got to go at a certain speed. There was only certain science fiction programs I thought that, like Sapphire and Steel, that was the only one that really could plod along the way it did, and that them very few and far between though them episodes. Those programs are. This, I suppose, in America, they actually hit the ground running, and I suppose that's why they went with it the way they did.
I'd tell you a sensible idea that worked, right? Was there was no android or robot in the film, and Rem was a great character. I always remember I like Rem. I'd like to own an action figure of Rem. I think he's quite good. Yeah,
that's
and he's quite smug with it. You know what I mean? He was very quippy. But the thing about the reason I thought that was good is because if you'd have gone with the film version and you've got the old man and the scene with the cats and McCavity, the poem, it wouldn't have worked because you wouldn't want an old man dotting about with you because he can't keep up with you. You got to run here, you got to run there, you got to run down this aisle, you got to have these things all like that. Christ, he could walk one step in front of each other without having nearly tripping over a book in the film. So it makes perfect sense that they made a character called Rem. But it's funny that I think some of the most standout performances in both the TV and that have been that character. So Rem in the TV series and the old man in the film. I find that eerie. Because they're two totally different things.
I mean, Rem was brought in as a bit of comedy relief, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah.
He was, but he was. That he was. We're going on about guest stars. if anybody probably knows anyway, he was the one out of the thing, wasn't he?
Oh
Donald.
yeah, he was the great person in the thing because he was like,
Get me out of this chair.
yeah, yeah. There you are watching him being a bit quippy and very PG, and then you hear him saying, "Get me fucking out of this chair, you bastards!" Fucking chair. You know, you going, "Oh, he swears."
But he was like the same character as Rem, wasn't he? In that way, where he was very smug. You know, so
yeah. He always had those thick eyebrows that always had a little bit of like a thing sticking up or something just at the end there. You know, it's almost like there was a tuft that was a bit longer.
Yeah.
The corners.
Just that one line where somebody said to him, "Oh, you're an android." He says, "Well, thank you very much, young man. I'm glad somebody appreciates and doesn't call me a robot looking at Logan and Jessica." You know, there's some good parts. Yeah.
But it always made me laugh where he's repairing himself or something. He's got half his arm hanging off.
Oh yeah.
Right? And you see all these transistors, and yet there's others where it's really, really cheap, where it's just a Velcro covered piece of cloth, and they put some sort of stuff down here because the arm looked like it was a real, like, oh, look at all those fiber optics coming out of that. That looks absolutely brilliant. Cover that, it's like some paint or something, the red wires or something going up and down. I thought, how low tech can you get for this? It's got high tech here, low tech there, or anything like that. I can't remember if they ever took his face off and you saw like like Steve Austin and the $6 million Man with them robots. You know, the John Saxon character with the face when it comes off when he knocks his face off. Yeah.
Michael York, then, definitely.
Michael, I'm going to go with Michael York, and I think you just about, and I'd agree. It's a close thing. It's just they are two totally different things, and they both acted in their own category. Yeah. I
think we caught up, haven't we?
Yeah. No, hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Back with Buffy. Still have given the choice. I would go for Michael York and Heather Menzies.
Heather Menzies.
So you'd have gone Michael York from the film and Heather Menzies rather than Michael York and Jenny Agutter.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It may. Would that work? I mean, what was Michael York in as a TV series? He did do a couple of TV series. He did. I don't know. The last time I saw Michael York was in Austin Powers, which is a film series. So I'm just trying to think. I think he did do some TV series stuff, but we'll always remember him as a film actor, I think. Yeah. I don't know how he'd be in a TV series. So, Robson, if it was to get the remake treatment, who would you cast in the main roles? Oh, you side. Oh. Can it be? Can we have them in their youth so we can go back as far as we want? But they've got to be in their youth. You know, like you might say Faye Ray or something. You know, but only if when she was in her 30s, not now when she's dead. You know what I mean?
Now I would pick for Francis, definitely Strider one, and that'll be Andrew Scott.
All right. Who would I have for Francis? Ooh, real bastard. Denny.
Thank you.
No, who would I have as Francis? Who's tracking them down? I keep thinking of The Fugitive, you know, and Robert Morse. That would be wrong, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah. Logan.
Tommy Lee Jones would make a good one if in his youth. Tracking down as a Francis. You know what I mean? Does that fit in with you? No, stuff you then. Who would I have as Logan? Ooh. You know what Hollywood would do if it was back in the 90s? It'd be Arnold Schwarzenegger, wouldn't it? Everything was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes. Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be Doc Ock in Spider-Man. Arnold Schwarzenegger was... Everything was like, oh, you know... I think it was after Running Man. It was just everything had Arnie in it. You know what I mean?
Here's one just to throw out. What was his name now? Who was in Sapphire and Steel? Who played Silver? David Collins.
Oh yeah. Sort of curly hair, quite lanky.
Well, just suppose he'd have been probably better as Doctor Who, wouldn't he? Really, David Collins.
I think
But
so.
Andrew Scott. Andrew Scott. I always wanted him to play the Master. I always wanted him to play he played Moriarty, didn't he? Brilliant in that. He's just the look of his face and them eyes.
Yeah.
I think he's a brilliant actor, Andrew Scott. But it's what's her name now for Jessica as she was in Game of Thrones?
I think Sharon Stone would work well. Back in her youth, I think Sharon Stone would probably fit quite well into the Jessica role.
Oh God, I'm just trying to think of a name out of Game of Thrones. Oh,
Game of Thrones.
She was.
Oh, what you mean the one who plays the dragon? The one who runs
not her. She was with what's her name's character? Oh my God, I can't remember it now. It was out of
Welcome to My World.
Oh bloody hell! the Avengers. What was it? Diane.
Oh, Diana Rigg.
It used to be with Diana Rigg's character. Oh my God!
Patrick McNee.
No.
He was John Steen with Diana Rigg. Are you talking about Game of Thrones still? But
the girl who was with Diana Rigg's character in Game.
Oh, she was. Oh, right, okay. Because she was round with a couple of girls because one of them was from the Stark family.
Natalie Dormer.
Right. I know you're talking about now. She died with the green stuff.
Oh.
In the church.
I don't know.
It blew up.
That's
Yeah.
Natalie Dormer. Oh yeah, I'd have Natalie Dormer on definitely.
God's sake, man, keep your steroids down.
Hey, you bloody started it.
I didn't start it. It was all these people going. It was all these people going. Whoa!
Yeah.
And all this sort of stuff.
First subject of the stream that was having sex.
Well, I must admit, it was in your face from the very start, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, them two, but Logan. Oh my goodness.
Paul Michael Glacier.
That's a possibility. Or David Soul.
Yeah.
David Soul was probably the more.
I think they would have been better though as the astronauts in Planet of the Apes.
Well, to be honest,
because you always had a blonde-haired one, you always had a brown or black-haired one. So I'm just going.
Well,
you know
that
what
was
I mean?
the thing, wasn't it? That they wanted a Starsky and Hutch character, didn't they? So that's what they got.
Yeah, they did.
But that's a damn good question. That is. Oh my God, Natalie Dormer, Andrew Scott as Francis.
Yeah, he's actually turned around and said Natalie Dormer's there.
Yeah.
And David Henderson would have made a good Sandman.
Oh yeah. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Captain Crane, yeah. David Edison, by me, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Napoleon Solo would be a very good main actor for a Sandman. You know what I mean? No. Anyway, well, that's all the comments there. Now, have you got anything else there? Because I think what we need to do now is talk about, does this fit in now? Where is Logan's run as a series retrospective now? Is it a bad piece of shit? Is it a good piece of shit? So have you got anything that you wanted to discuss? Because we talked about episodes, you've talked about the guest stars. Is there anything else on your bit of paper?
Not really, no. How does it fit into that? I think it was a product of his time.
No, I'm just saying we'll move into that because that's the end. It's like retrospectively, what do you think now? Is it aged? Does it age? Does it not age? All of that sort of stuff.
It ages in, obviously, it's
no, you start now. I'm just telling you all the bits that you got to bring in. So
I'm just saying it's very of its time.
Yeah.
Very 70s, as you can tell from it's strange. I mean, the costumes are supposed to be futuristic, but you can tell by the makeup and the hair. And I don't know if you noticed the blokes all had them bell-bottom trousers as the same. So that the 70s never helped themselves, did they, with flares, let's be honest. But as a piece of science fiction, there are weak episodes, but there's damn good episodes as well, like them three I mentioned. It has a part in science fiction. That should hold the red up eye, really, and it's just such a shame it was never carried on, at least for 2 or 3 seasons. And there's stuff coming out now. I mean, which you touched on it, like with the films. There's Silo, the new TV series, very close to Logan's run. Please, if nobody's watched Silo, please watch Silo. It was the breakthrough series of 2023. Stunning series. And I'm not going to tell you the ending because it would spoil it for everyone. But it's Logan's run with a slight difference. Brilliant. Anyway, it's a good piece of science fiction television. Like everything, everybody's got bad episodes, good episodes. The music, it was very 70s, but there's one thing, you'll remember it for being Logan. You'll hear that piece of music, it's Logan's run, that is. So
it's memorable.
It's very memorable, and it's just a nice nostalgia piece to look back on for when you was a kid. You know what I mean?
Did it go far enough, though, do you think, with its premise? You're not going to live beyond 30. There's a conspiracy, really, in the fact that everything is controlled by computers and all of this sort of stuff. Did it emphasize that enough where you think that wasn't used enough all the way through the series? Because from that moment on, once they left the city, that became a nothing, and it then turned into just getting to Sanctuary.
Well, there was now stories on it. Well, I suppose it wouldn't have hurt with a story about questioning.
It's just Soylent Green. It's stark in your face, and at the end, there's the realization. And what I'm trying to say to that is that is a film that gets its point across. This starts off with a premise that says, I think anyway, from my point of view, that if you were offered this type of society, would you accept it? Because they're all turning around and saying it is the idealistic society. And we came and we answered ourselves. You said, I wouldn't take it if that was offered to me. And I said to you, no bloody right would I not take it. I wouldn't want that society to live in that.
But then again, it would be for some. It would be for some people having everything on the, it's it's people. In a way, in the Logan's run, you've got to think one way. We have a society who can think anyway. So some could choose that life if they wanted to, sustain themselves.
Yeah.
Brothers like ourselves, like me and you, we want to do different things. We want to. If there's a CD that's been out of our reach for years, we'll keep trying and trying. There's this thing within you. You want to keep trying for that certain thing. You won't give up on it. It's the, how do you put this? It's the conquest, not the conquest of man. It's the conquest of life, isn't it? Is this all there is to life? You leave, you go to work, you retire, you die. People have always pushed boundaries, whether it's religion, whether it's society. So would it work for me? It wouldn't work for me, but yet it would work for others. And as I said, you look at bringing in things now which will be coming into law. I think it will be assisted dying, because there's a lot of way. There's many reasons why people want to obviously pass over through illness or whatever. But should it go as far as I've got no family, I'm depressed, I don't want to be here anymore?
But did the TV series, did the movie nod to assisted dying? Because I don't think it did. When I watched the film and they're dying at 30, all I thought to myself was, you die when you're very young and you don't have to go through age and you don't have to feel ill or anything. I never thought of it as this has been written to highlight the fact that we should have assisted dying. this is a definite film about why that should be something that we have control over. This came across to me as more how to deal with overpopulation than it is with I've got an illness and I want to assist myself in dying.
Mm. But again, that
So
was something that was never actually brought up in the film or the series. What it's about?
that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. So do you think it missed
illness.
a trick? Is that what you're saying? It missed a trick.
Well, I suppose it did because
It should have
that never
touched
come.
upon that.
Yeah, yeah. It's because it should have done. Illness should have definitely been brought up because.
Oh yeah, because apart from a bloke who got cut with all the lasers,
Yeah.
I don't remember because that thing self-healed, didn't it? It cut and then it healed at the same time, right?
Because you never saw anybody ill up to the age of when they
never saw anybody dismembered, and I never saw anybody blow their nose in it. Their nose either.
Have a stroke. I mean, anybody can have a stroke, heart attack at any particular time, up to the age of 30. Cancer.
We know how they got rid of their dead because those little robots come along and cover you in acid, and that was it. You were gone.
But did it go far enough? No, there's many avenues, I suppose, that could go down, but we had what we had. But you never know. Hopefully, if another adaptation comes out, they might expand on it.
So what they could have done in the TV series is they could have split it into two, couldn't they? They could have had a friend of Logan in the city, and you could follow a plot line where their lives continue to go while they're on the run. And they're talking about what's going on in the city and what's happened since they run and all that conspiracy, while you still have the episodes of Logan's Run where he's running away trying to get to Sanctuary and still have Francis looking after him. They might have missed a trick there, yeah, because once they left the dome, that was it. Apart from coming back in one episode, there wasn't really much talk of the dome anymore, other than not even in a recap.
Yeah.
So from a point of view of a recommendation of science fiction from the past to people that are, you're talking about a certain era, would you recommend Logan's Run to a person that wants to watch science fiction, or would you recommend another show?
Oh, definitely recommend it. I absolutely recommend it because these are little small morsels of, science fiction from a time when how do I put this now? They are like little time capsules of these science fiction programs, which were done in a way that they're not done these days.
Yeah,
the stories, the atmosphere, the music. We touched on the music. You just don't get these, and the stories when they done a story like That Man Out of Time, they knocked it out the park. Literally knocked it out the park. Do you get that today? Could you have a television program today where you get an episode where you go, bloody hell? That's going to go down in one of my top 10 episodes.
Yeah, so like I said, it is a favourite of mine, but it's a well-trodden science fiction story, and it's almost like they got the right script writers on the day to write that story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's right, I'm sure they must have done that story in another TV series, and they've just come in and gone, I'm going to sell them the same story that I've just sold these guys over.
Yeah, but these people used to write. They were heavyweight writers as well.
Yeah,
heavyweight. It's not like the crud you get on ITV and BBC, but there again, I can't remember the last science fiction program, if I'm honest.
So you definitely recommend it. My answer to it is I would also definitely recommend it. I'd have a trouble if somebody was to ask me, should I watch Logan's Run or should I watch Planet of the Apes, is a hard question, right?
Ooh.
Because I would turn around and say, well, they're two totally different films or two totally different TV series. You're putting the impossible in because it's almost like saying, should I watch a comedy or should I watch a horror tonight?
Yeah.
And saying, can you recommend a comedy horror? Right. Let's see if there's a hybrid out there. So from my point of view, it's if you've seen the film, my answer is if you've seen the film, then I think it's a must that you watch the TV series. Okay. I think even just to see where they could have gone with it, how it could have ended. You know what I mean? Or even if it's just to give you an alternate view of something. Because there are enough changes in it to make it a different flavor. You know, it's like saying I like vanilla, but I've gone for strawberry today, and I'm no worse for wear for choosing that flavor. You know what I mean? Because that's how I sort of like looking at it. It's a piece from its time. They hit while the iron was hot because it's literally a year between them. And I find it a great shame, yes, that you know that they stopped it where it was. But I felt exactly the same when Planet of the Apes. I think one of the saddest days is knowing that they stopped it where it did.
Yeah, that's true.
I think everybody knows that it's one of those shows where they went, "You're mad! You killed off something in its prime. It was just getting good, and you stopped." You know what I mean? Where'd you get these figures from that make you think, "Fuck off! We don't want you to make no more of these"? I mean, where?
Yeah, but that happened to the Time Tunnel as well. It was done decent figures. They had a new the new director of the company coming. I don't want any more of them.
Yeah.
You know, crazy. Absolutely crazy. Because I don't like science fiction. Shall we now
Yeah.
that on BBC One?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Buffy turning around and said, I found it very enjoyable. Very of its time, with lots of plot holes and a bit monster of the week in style, but well worth a watch, even if you haven't seen the film. Not quite sure where the monster of the week comes in, because I don't remember seeing any bloke in rubber or this is. I would say monster as a personality of the week, because there was always these big bastards that would turn around and say, no, you can't have my daughter, or no, you are going to act this way, or whatever. And I'd say that was the monster of the week, was this antagonist where they thought they'd reached Sanctuary. There was always this one git that would basically say, you haven't met Sanctuary at all. Because actually I'm a bastard. I'm going to show you how much of a bastard I am as well. Swearing a little bit there. But you get what I mean. I don't remember seeing like a lizard creature or there were definitely plot holes. I can't agree more with what Buff has said, apart from the monster of the week bit. But maybe I'm just misunderstanding what he means by monster of the week, because monster of the week can mean bad person. The bad person of the episode.
You know
what I mean?
That's one thing. Like you say, normally the 70s programs that descended into stuff like that, especially the Irving Allen stuff. I mean, Voice of the Bottom of the Sea his first season was very legit. And then, you had Lobster Man and, people dressing up.
Lost in Space with carrots and all sorts of shit.
But I think this one actually bypassed. I think I know what it means, though, about that. The monster that's in style. So this
in style,
antagonist, to be like, I know what you mean.
And then we've got Sci that says, I've not read the book, but isn't it 21 instead of 30 years old? No, it's 30. In the film, it's 30.
Well, I thought it was 30.
Yeah. In fact, I remember them saying, if they did say it was 21, in the book it's 21, right? But in the film, they had to choose 30, because if you had a person that was 21 years old, there'd be teenagers that you'd be hiring for the people. People that say that they're 30 can act in their 20s and 17s. You can make them look younger. So you can get away with some people that are in their 40s saying, I've just reached 30, right? Because that means you could have an adult acting or an acting base. Do you see what I mean? If you said, like the book, the idyllic society, as the book says, is 21, you'd be hiring Bugsy Malone characters. It'll be kids. That wouldn't work. Not for me. You have to have, I think 30 was right. So I'm glad they changed that about the book. But it definitely in the book, it's 21, by the way. Yeah, it is. And then we've got Buffy saying, not necessarily a monster, but many episodes are meet new people, people turn out to be evil. That's what I was saying, wasn't I? Then escape and never hear from them again. I'm so glad you cleared that up, Buffy, because I was just going, I could quite understand that. And then I was going, maybe he means monster as in personality, and that's where I was going. I think I can understand that. Yeah, and you clarified it much better than I can, Denny. You've got a much more eloquent way of words than I have. I wish I could get my words out instead of the crap that comes out of my mouth every Sunday.
You do better than me,
Good
man.
God, you know. But that is the end of the comments. We've both said that we think it's a recommended show. Is there any closing comment you'd like to say about Logan's Run before we go? What you're doing in your channel at the moment, Denny, and then we title it up. So, what's your closing comment on Logan's Run
Well,
that
just
would
a
be
little thing.
profound for the audience?
Before we close, there's a couple of bits of memorabilia. I don't know if anybody's interested. I'm a big collector of annuals. You get this for about £22.
Is that Grand Dreams?
Is it what?
Grand Dreams, the company Grand Dreams. That made the UK annual.
Brown Watson.
Oh, because you do know that Marvel made a short run comic.
Oh,
Logan's
well,
Run.
I didn't, but there's 2 comic stories, and then there's a readable story, and like the general
like
stuff.
They did with all the annuals in the 70s, wasn't it?
I always used to think that was thicker than this. Look how thin that is, to be honest. So if anybody's in, you can get that for £22 off the net, and obviously 14 episodes, 37 pound was it, or something like?
Yeah, it's 37 quid at the moment.
Well, for this bit of quality, it's one of them things. What I will say about Logan's Run, like a lot of the 70s programs back then, and probably the very early 80s one, you will look back in time and these will still be remembered, whereas a lot of this later stuff you won't, because they had that certain charm about it, and Logan's Run especially did. And it's one from my childhood I'll never forget, and if anybody asks, I'll be more than happy to sit with them and talk about it, because it's part of me growing up as a kid, and I love it, and I love science fiction, and I love talking about it.
And anything else?
Nope, I think that's
right. Okay, my closing comments on Logan's Run is, it gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling every time that I go back to it. It's like the first time I was introduced to the soundtrack and the film, and then when I watched the TV series, it's like, oh wow, it's a continuation of something that I really, really appreciated and loved, in the film. It's got that episodic format that was just so engrossing for me, that I was brought up on in my childhood, like Planet of the Apes, which I've talked about a couple of times. Not that they're joined in any way, it's just that what I'm saying is from a TV series perspective, I watched Fantasy Island, I watched Love Boat, I watched, Logan's Run, Planet of the Apes. I was watching Space 1999 at the time. Star Trek was on repeat. So I was in my element. It was like, so this is the new stuff that's coming out now, and what I've been watching is like the old 60s repeated. And wow, wouldn't it have been great if Logan's Run effects had been in Star Trek? I was looking at things like that, and I think that is what I took away with the what if of everything, because I watched films in the 80s and went, oh, wouldn't that be great if it was digital? And then when we get to the digital age, I'm going, why can't we go back to when it was animatronic? Because it was so much better than this.
Yeah,
because we take it, I think, as a nation, we take things too far. We get to the point where that now takes over, because that becomes the cost-effective way of doing it, and it's always down to money all the time.
Yeah,
I think what we need to do is step back, even when we're doing TV shows like, and this is where I'm saying about Doctor Who now, right? You've got to step back and go, it's not about the money, it's about the story, the acting, that those two things are quintessential. And at the moment, you're getting a character in and basing a story around that character when it should be the character fits into the story. story is the thing that I want to be interested in, and it drives me forward, and how the Doctor's going to get out of this, not this character that's coming in who's playing the Doctor, and I want to see him in different moods. Like, I want to see him when he's happy, and I want to see him when he's sad. And I don't give a shit. I want the story. You know what I mean? And that's sort of like what, and none of this political bollocks. So Logan's run worked as well on one way, because it told that story at the beginning about the society, and then it ended up being the chase. And it was all about the chase, and that's what it's called, Logan's Run. He's on his run. It's nothing to do with overpopulation, dying at 30 and all of that. That's what he was running away from. You just never saw what he was running to. Because you always wanted to know what Sanctuary is, and Sanctuary is just what you want it to be. And that's where I think you eloquently said, Denny, the prisoner. Because they were never escaping from anywhere, really. Yeah. Wherever they got, it would never have met up with what your imagination was thinking of what Sanctuary is. And with that, I'm going to turn around and say, I think it's a series that you should watch. If you can afford it, buy it, because I think it's worth it. It's a good picture. I'd like a Blu-ray edition. I told Denny my version is a Blu-ray edition, but when we were discussing it, mine's a bootleg. So it is definitely a DVD upscaled and put onto Blu-ray discs. So don't fall for that. Buy the Logan's Run DVD box set. You can upscale it yourself. Every player out there can upscale. So you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. I'm going to tell you what's sort of like happening with my blog, but I want Denny to close off the show. I keep saying he's going to close off the show, and then I open my gob. So this time I'm going to keep to my word and not say a word at the end. He's going to close off the show, and I'm going to hit the end of the stream button, right? So I'm just going to let you know that my blogs will continue. I'm mulling over whether I might do the This Day in History game at the end of my blog, because I found a site where you can actually type in February 13th, this day in gaming, and it actually shows you all the games that came out in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I could then load it up on my Mister and go, yeah, I'm going to play Joe and Mac, or I'm going to play Tic-Tac-Toe, which is what it was. I think it was Wild Gunman. I think 1984 on the 18th of February was the day that was released. I think I might follow that up. It won't take away the trailers. The trailers will always be there. And the reason I do the trailers is because what I've bought, really, and what I've watched. And then I thought it was quite good to bring Logan's Runs titles at the end of this week's blog. And then when it comes to the rest of the stuff, I've not forgotten about my 8-bit years, my 16-bit years. I'm finding it difficult to go back to editing, but I will get over that. Denny has inspired me, actually, because he said, I've got my mojo back. Anybody that comes up to me and says, I've got my mojo back, makes me feel scared, because it's like, right, you bastard, you're going to be better doing something better than I'm doing. I better kick myself up the arse and start doing my editing again, and otherwise you're going to supersede me. You get that? Ain't going to happen. So, to end it all, thank you for watching. Please tell everybody out there to sub to both of our channels. I'm going to shut up now because I don't know when to shut up. And then I'm going to get my finger poised over the end stream button, and I'm going to let Denny say what's happening in his channel. And I'm going to say, salute to you now. Salute. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, I'm still chipping away at my Whizball video. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. Emulators, trying to get something off the Amstrad has been a nightmare. And I'm trying to emulate something called the Thomson MR5 computer, which has a version of Whizball. It's been an absolute nightmare to get them running, but I have got them done. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. I'm quite pleased with what I've done, and it comes out all right. I don't bang out too many games, but that's basically what I'm working on. The next one, obviously, it's a text adventure, which is on my other channel. I've got about a quarter of the way through that one. That'll be done straight after that one. I hope to get that out by the end of March, if I try. But yeah, that's basically what I'm working on. So if that sort of thing you're interested, I should be available very soon. So keep a lookout. And Del, thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody for coming on tonight. It's been brilliant. Thanks very much. See you all.